you want to know?
Brother, I need to know like every single variable of gameplay. You know what we'll do, bro? I will start from the goalkeepers. Is the manual goalkeeping a viable thing?
Viable? No.
Okay.
Basically, the first game we played with them, because Megabit did a tweet, so I can say that he's been there. The first thing like Megabit said when he like touched his goalkeeper, he's like, even Kurt can't complain about this. So like it was okay. Like very rarely did like even there were like cases where my opponent moves the goalkeeper the correct like corner for a 1v1, but because I take the extra touch and finesse, it still went in.
So you get actually
So
rewarded for doing the extra touches and stuff, even if he guesses the right direction.
well, in that specific scenario, yeah. I don't know if it's going to be consistent, but like if you take the extra touch like inside or like the extra touch and like finesses are obviously consistent, not like 19 post patch in the box. So if you like take the extra touch and like finesse or do a ball roll or whatever, it's like consistent.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't even feel the need to time finish.
You never felt the need to do it ever, not even for the long shots.
Not really. Like I didn't really try long shots. Like for 2 days, you want to focus on better things than just like abuse long shots and stuff. We did try out a few exploits to see if like something needs patching. We didn't find something like noticeable, but like we only had 2 days.
All right.
I assume it will be tested by pros before launch again at some point. The only thing like that was maybe more effective than it should be were volleys, but like they were not near as effective as 19, but still a bit more effective for my liking than it should be. But it was like obviously miles better than 19.
Yeah. Okay. You're talking about the volleys. Volleys from where?
It was inside the box. Like there was this one specific video I saw because I didn't really try volleys either. It was just like someone chipping a volley inside the box, like at the penalty spot, and then shooting it. It went in, and it was like kind of those like you're in a good position. So if it was a normal volley, it could go in, but because it was a chipped volley, it looks kind of dumb.
Yeah.
So it's like it's hard to find the balance, like how exactly to code it so like that doesn't go in per se, or like doesn't result to a proper shot.
Okay. What is the 1v1 finishing like? Because 1v1 finishing, it's a variation of the types of shots that you take and
Yeah,
the touches that you take. Okay.
yeah.
The first part of 1v1 finishing, is the dribbling good?
The thing is, we played head to head, right?
Okay.
So gameplay is obviously slower. Players are not like that steroided compared to like foot. So we didn't even have Barca and obviously Juventus, so we couldn't like check out the Messis and the Ronaldos.
Hmm.
So we played like we did have Mbappe and Neymar, which were pretty good, like with PSG. Um, so yeah, like dribbling, it's weird. Like of course it's head to head. It felt like the thing is like the most effective way to dribble is like the new quote unquote crab walk, right? The new like the FIFA 17 L2 R2.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of similar. Like that will be the new in the current state. It will be the most effective way to dribble. I showed the devs a clip of Kurt in FIFA 18, how he dribbles past opponents like just using the left stick, and told them like that's what we want. Like that's how it should be in order to have a skill gap in dribbling and like taking on 1v1 players.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they will take that into consideration. I hope they will like make some changes and improve it. But like in terms of dribbling, again, it's kind of related to gameplay because good, bad gameplay, like in good gameplay, even on 19, you can take the extra touch, whereas in bad gameplay, you can't.
Right.
So it's very much like contextual as to how the game is. And I do feel we still have inconsistent gameplay. So hey, Inception, going back to Vancouver at some point, I hope. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
obviously it will not be fixed from today to tomorrow, right? Because
Yeah.
like you went to give their feedback as they were working on 20 already. So it's obvious to me that there's going to be inconsistent gameplay. But like when there was stuff like going wrong in the game, like players not reacting to the ball, I like they told me they had a few issues with players locking on and stuff that they know and they're working on. And then they even had fixed in Vancouver, but just the build we played was like a tad bit earlier, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know that if these issues are because of FIFA 20, because of bad gameplay, or because you're playing head to head, right?
Right.
And kind of share the gameplay of worse players. So it's like I can give feedback, but like I can't exactly pinpoint where the issue stems from since there are three variables, right?
Yeah.
But you still kind of give them the feedback, they record it, like they really care. Like you can see and like they've definitely improved and like because I've watched you since like 17, 16, 15 even. I know how like it's been with feedback and with EA, but from what I noticed from the start of FIFA 18, from the feedback I've given, because it's harder to implement like core changes in a game cycle, so in FIFA 19. But what they've done from FIFA 19 to FIFA 20 with the feedback we've given is like definitely noticeable.
Right. You think there's a bigger change from like you giving that feedback now than it was before, right?
Oh, definitely, yeah, definitely. And from what I know, here's like I gave personally two or three like core ideas that for me are very important. One of them is obviously you know how like when you manually defend, you have a defender selected, and he auto lunges while you're selecting him, right?
Right.
That's frustrating as fuck. I gave because in settings you have the pass block assistance, which is basically auto lunges. You can turn it off, right?
Hmm.
But if you turn it off, you put yourself at a massive disadvantage because you will get rewarded for not like your player not auto lunging when you're controlling him, but
Exactly.
all
Yeah.
other scenarios where your AI helps you out because that's FIFA 19, you get punished because you don't have that advantage.
Right.
Well, I suggested that they have this setting, which I have heard is already implemented, is to have pass block assistance off for the player you're always manually controlling. So like if I'm tracking a passing lane or I'm tracking a shot or a run or anything, if a ball goes next to me, if I don't press tackle, which is the ball to kind of intercept when the ball is next to you, your player will not auto lunge.
So when you're manually using someone and you press the tackle button, they actually go for the interception now?
Well, that's how it always works, but like if the AI auto lunges before you do that, it's kind of pointless.
Right.
And yeah, basically in every assaultment, like 18, 19, if you tackle when the ball's next to you, if your player doesn't stick a leg out to intercept it, he does. But like it's hardly noticeable because like the player either lunges or you don't have time to react to lunge because you don't know that will happen.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be an option like to turn on. I assume it's gonna be on, off, and like on except for the player you're manually controlling or however they're gonna word it. And I think that will fix a lot of issues in terms of like auto lunges. Like, you know, when somebody's playing narrow and just like ping ponging, and it's really hard to play because like assisted passing and auto lunges,
Right.
and like no matter how much you switch, like your player just stick the leg out and like are taken out of play. That will kind of fix that issue. You'll kind of decide when you want to commit with that specific player.
Okay.
Or like when you defend a 1-2 between strikers and you pull one of your center backs out just enough to cover the passing lane, but he decides to lunge, and like it's a 2v1 center back. So those scenarios are like the most noticeable ones, and I think that will help a lot.
So manually defending is more like it's more rewarding now.
Like especially my favorite thing in terms of tackling. Like in 2 days, I must have played, um, obviously very good pros that were there. Like some of them haven't mentioned on social media, so I can't say.
Hmm.
But Megabit, for example, we started playing with him a lot of games, and in the 2 days, like I must have made like in all the games a total of what 100 tackles, maybe one or two, maximum three, went back to my opponent, and only because the ball went in complete no man's land. And my opponent got to it first. But most of the time, it never stayed with the player I tackled ever, and it almost all the time it went either to the player I tackled with or just as some sort of a pass towards my player. They gave us a presentation before we started playing to explain what are the changes, and how they're implemented. And one of them was, and I assume it's going to be on pitch notes, and I don't think that's a secret since we've played the game and we can give feedback. It's just like the mechanic, the coding behind this is when you tackle, the game kind of registers a safe zone where the ball can go, and the safe zone is green, like marked as green for the computer, like for the game to register. And this green zone is basically when there's kind of no opponent or it's you. Like where it's you or your player, it's the zone that's kind of favored. Where it's not, where it's your opponent, it's in red, so it's where the ball should not go. And it's definitely rewarding manual like tackling. Interceptions a bit less because of assisted passing, right?
Right.
Um, but again, I gave feedback to, because if you go on assisted passing on FIFA, you have this like in settings, it literally says we will help you with the power and aim or whatever.
Right.
And the last thing it says that really like made me a few months ago when I saw it was and avoid opponent players. Like that's what it says in game if you read it.
Right.
And that is one of if you're gonna again if you're gonna nerf AI and reward manual defending, you also kind of have to nerf like AI and attacking, right? It only makes sense to have a balance. And the way to start that is like to nerf assisted passing. Obviously, I don't expect FIFA to go in a manual passing direction.
Of course.
Because first of all, it's overkill. It is overkill. It's way too much. It's way too difficult. But semi, I thought would be okay. But on second thought, assisted with removing avoid opponent players would make a lot of sense because it will still kind of adjust the pass according to your player's run, but it will not avoid a player that once is like correctly positioned.
Right.
And that's most noticeable, like down the line when you pull your wing back a bit.
Yeah.
And then no matter where you position it, a full through ball just goes. Either behind him, next to him, or whatever. It's ininterceptable.
Right.
So if they kind of remove that feature, I think it's going to balance it out well. It's going to reward also manual interceptions. So I feel like manual defending, at least for tackling, is very noticeable. For stand tackling, I haven't tried slide tackling. I haven't tried power up tackles. Just the normal, like position yourself with jockey, tackle the ball, and you have it.
What's the defensive AI like for blocking the shots?
The thing is, like defensive AI kind of still block the shots if they're like positioned in the shooting lane in a way.
Okay.
But because AI is a lot less overpowered in terms of tracking back, in terms of like running and covering every empty space. Like if you take a shot where an AI player is kind of in the vicinity, like it's okay for it to get blocked.
Okay.
However, it's a lot easier to create chances against someone who's not that good at defending.
Right.
So I think it's a good balance because you also don't want your AI to do absolutely nothing.
Of course, they counter each other, right? So they still go for like the slide tackle blocks in the shooting vicinity and stuff.
Yeah,
okay.
Kind of in a way, but it's not like FIFA 19 where on the replay you can see them running 10 yards just to like throw themselves in the shooting lane.
Right. Did you try like obviously if you use like park the bus tactics, what's the balance for park the bus if someone's using it?
There's two things we didn't really try. It was I personally and my opponent that played it, we didn't try drop back and we didn't try time wasting. Those are two things that we didn't try because we had other things to focus on.
Right.
Like to try pressure, to try other stuff, and I'll get into pressure. But like again, I feel drop back won't be as OP, even like the park bus tactic with what you mentioned earlier, which I'm not going to say on stream. Especially if your opponent is AI defending, it's just like if he doesn't switch off the striker and runs back, or he doesn't switch off his CDM, just like 3, 4, 5 passes around the box to your striker and a turn, and you're in on net.
What formation did you use when you were there?
4-4-2, mainly 4-4-2, I think. 4-4-2, 4-2-2, maybe a 4-2-3-1 here and there.
Okay.
But those are the three. I didn't play narrow because I generally don't like narrow. People played narrowed against me, like a very, very, very good player. Like undoubtedly played narrow against me. And because of my manual defending, he had 0 shots.
Right.
Like all game. And that we're talking about a pro. Like it's... And of course, we're not sweating. Like we're not playing 100% serious. Like we're kind of talking. But it's still like you're playing a pro. He played narrow. And I managed to defend well those passes and the general areas where he can get through.
Even though you were using 4-4-2.
Or in that case, 4-2-3-1, but one of both. Yeah, with low width.
Right.
To like avoid the middle.
Right.
He had overlapping fullback, so it was kind of attacking. I managed to score 4 because you're playing narrow, so you're more exposed at the back. So it was, I don't know, I felt good because it's not like I felt good because I win. I feel good because what I'm doing makes sense and you get rewarded for it, right?
Yeah. Okay. What are the tactics the exact same as they are right now?
In terms of custom tactics instructions.
In terms of constant pressure, balanced, and then those little bars, is it the same as that?
Everything in tactics, everything was the same. The only addition in 20 is like you have instructions for goalkeepers in terms of if you want them to come out like kind of Allison does, like sweeper keeper,
right?
Or you can have the exact opposite, just like never come out. And the same for crosses, like always come out, balance, or never come out. I didn't play around with them because I didn't want to.
Right.
And because you said pressure, the tactics are the same. Team press is like obviously still in the game.
Right.
The thing is like in team press in 19 is so OP because like they mirror everything you do. they run into you almost. Like
Hmm.
you don't need a lot of like input in order to really press someone. On FIFA 20, like what's happening is like they still kind of mark you. Like your players are all kind of marked. But like unless your opponent switches into those players as soon as you pass, he can't really take the ball off you. It's like let's say you're on team press, I pass to my left back and your right winger is on me. If I take my left back and just like start running downwards or upwards, your player will not track me that well. Or if I just do a drag back or anything to get away from you, he won't track me. So you like it's team press, but like you have to manually defend, and because that happens, if you don't do it, you leave a lot of gaps, etc., etc., etc.
So the defending is very generic in regards to like, okay, so if you see someone making a run and you need to block it, you can block that run, but then you have to switch automatically to the person who's close to the ball to defend properly again, right?
Yeah, kind of like the AI kind of start tracking runs. If you don't track it, they stop. If you switch, you start tracking the run. Hold a bit of second man press to be able to then switch quickly to the like how defending should be, right?
How's the switching in
Um,
the game?
that was my only issue that is similar to 19. And again, I don't know if it's 20. I don't know if it's bad gameplay or I don't know if it's head to head. Right stick switching was an issue. Like you know when it jumps over the player you want to switch to,
Yes.
which like it makes no sense. Like I showed the devs like Tom Khalifi, Kancho, etc. Clips which they recorded because like I've noticed they do that. Like they record the shit and then they give feedback and like to the other guys in Vancouver they fix it.
Yeah.
So I know like it works. Like it, you can. It's nice to see like when you show them something they like take their phone out and they like take pictures. And it's not like they take and then they delete it. It's like they actually care and do something with that footage.
Right.
So there was this one issue. There was this one instance where I had three players of mine and like on the same line. Like I could not switch to the third without passing through the second. That's what I mean.
Right.
And I was right stick switching, and from one player and went to the third without going through the second. And that was the issue. I'm like, it makes no sense. Like even if I wanted to, I could not do that. So these kind of issues unfortunately still exist. Um, yeah, that's as much I can say. Left stick switch. Well, left. What LB?
Right stick switching or LB, yeah.
Yeah, right stick and LB. Well, yeah. Again, both are kind of related. That's one issue I still have, and I don't feel it's fixed. Is the switching?
Okay. Okay, so we went through dribbling, we went through defensive AI. Um
I say
how is the shooting? How is the finishing 1v1?
again, as I said, extra touch, finesse goes in, extra touch. Like Driven's is better than 19, obviously, because now they're way too inconsistent. But it's not 18 levels. Like it's not near 18 levels.
Hmm.
But like still, some of them still go wide, like hit the post and stuff.
So
Maybe if you
is it
dream, yeah,
logical finishing?
yeah. In a way, it's like if you're in a 1v1 situation and like do a baller or extra touch and like finesse, I felt those go in. A power shot when you're kind of in a smart angle far post also goes in. I didn't try because I saw Stallion mention from LA the near post finesse shots from like outside the box or whatever. Didn't try those specifically, but I felt like I almost didn't see cases of like dumb saves, like some superhuman, unnatural saves. Like most of the time when you're in the box, when you're in a shooting position, it goes in.
Okay. So it's like for the most part when what you experience there, it's logical finishing, like taking the extra touch, power strike when you should, finesse shot when you should, all that kind of stuff, right?
Kind of, yeah, that's how I felt in the head. Like you didn't have like the chemistry styles on like the good players.
Right. So you
You
don't
didn't
even
have the
have
Ronaldos
sniper or
and
hunter or
Messi's.
whatever. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I felt it made sense. There was even this one instance, like I got to a 1v1, and because it was a nice passing play in the box, like the 1v1 was almost near the small penalty area. And I knew because like we pros have the reflex to immediately move our goalkeeper. So I knew my opponent would do it. And I literally just because goalkeepers are so slow and when you commit to one side, you can't do anything. You can't move back. And I knew he would commit to one side, so I just walked the ball in the goal. So that's how ineffective manual goalkeeping is. Like you move him a bit to one side. First of all, you're not guaranteed you're going to save it if the shot goes there, if it's a perfect shot. And second of all, there's no chance you move backwards.
Okay. Which players were you shooting with for the 1v1 finishing?
Just like the strikers for of PS, I think I played with PSG, so Neymar, Cavani, and Mbappe.
Okay.
I think I played with Liverpool, so the front three of Liverpool. Um, I don't know if I even tried another team. Oh yeah, Real Madrid, I think.
Okay. Let's see what else is there. Stuff that we should bring up. Defending you kind of brought up already. Switching we brought up. 1v1 finishing we brought up. Um,
Until you can think of something else. Two things. First of all, the set pieces in terms of corners and in terms of penalties and free kicks. I think free kicks could be OP at some point because if you learn to properly curl the ball and like, because penalties and free kicks, you can time them now. So you can hit green time finishing on pens and free kicks. Obviously, it's more difficult, as I said. Like generally, time finishing is a lot more difficult and a lot less rewarding. Penalties are still yet to be fully finished and like developed because they still have issues. Free kicks could be OP, I feel, because if especially for pros, because if you kind of master it, it is kind of a lot of things to like take into account. Like kind of like I said at the start of the year, like being an octopus. Like you kind of have to decide how you want to spin the ball. You kind of have to hold your positioning for the free kick just like you do at corners with the yellow dot. Because like if you move it, it goes back to the center of the goal. So you have to hold that. You have to hold if you want to like knuckleball it, power shot it, or whatever. You have to do the spin on the right trigger and on the right analog and know the directions. And then you have to time your shot to be green. So it's like it's not obvious to do, but for pros, like we're gonna kind of like get the hang of it a month in or something, and that I feel could be OP. Is like kind of is gonna be kind of like um a 50-50 whether you guess the correct corner or not. That's how I feel it's gonna be. So I told him that we'll see if like what and if the fix is gonna be. And pens are still yet to be finished. And what I know some people ask me a lot on Twitter today is corners and crosses, right? Those goddamn near post corners. Cross in general are like I didn't feel a change in crosses per se, but I felt like a lot the change in like heading. If you have a contested header, so like two players jump for it, even in game, like if I chip it to my right wing to avoid pressure or anything, as long as two players jump for the ball and like it's not like a Van Dijk against Messi, which I didn't get the chance to try. The header is like inaccurate. Like say I'm aiming with my right winger to my striker, the ball is gonna go into the midfield because the header is contested.
right.
And the same thing for like crosses and stuff. Like I don't think anyone scored a header when we played there. Only if obviously the cross is smart, you're in open space, back post, you see the player, you cross it, he can then head it calmly in.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just like it's kind of random. Like you don't want to rely on crosses because it's very very random.
Okay. Did you experience kickoff there?
Yes,
You
the
did.
issue with kickoff. The thing is, like the issue with kickoff is again like 19, like the positioning of the backline and stuff,
Right.
which is generically done like this because of the KSI glitch back in the day. But because of our feedback, like two things. First of all, you would rather defend like the KSI, especially with like the contested headers and stuff. It's a lot less like to concede a header or a volley or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd rather defend the KSI, like manually just pull your center back and like be done with it,
Right.
than have to hope your opponent doesn't pass your midfield because there's a big gap between your midfield and defenders, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Exactly. So we gave that feedback, and we told them like just push the back line further up, make that change, like leave less of a gap between the lines, and let people just have to just defend the through balls like they would in real play, you know.
Right.
Um, and and obviously for 2 days you can't really tell if there's more than that to kick off. Like in 19, obviously you've. But the thing is, in 19 again, like, is it because obviously some shit sometimes happens from kickoff, but like a lot of shit happens in the game in general. The main
Yeah.
issue is just like to get in that general area between the midfield and the defenders, and then it's kind of just ping pong it from there and just like first time B shot or whatever you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So if they push the back line further up, it's going to be a lot less of an issue to get into that space. It's just going to be like normal play, and then you just have to defend different stuff that may be effective, but that are also effective in regular play. Like in 19, you can send your player on a run and just like full LB wide with your center back to put him in on net. Like if you do that from kickoff, people are going to be like, that's kickoff glitch. Whereas actually, no, it's just a broken mechanic that works also from kickoff.
Right.
So it's like better having to defend this kickoff than the regular build a
You're
play.
saying in regards to like what you'd prefer to deal with, all you have to do is manually defend with a center back, push him back, and then you could just
I
deal with
would
that
prefer
one.
that. Obviously,
Yeah,
we didn't have that fix in order to test it out, but I would prefer that, and I think a lot of people would if they just like you get burned from it twice, you kind of learn, right?
yeah.
You take your center back, you're moving backwards. Whereas the other thing, there's not really much to learn. Like you just kind of hope, especially on 19, that your tackle connects or whatever. Whereas on 20, even I feel it could be less of an issue because like if you tackle, the ball actually goes back to you, so
Right.
that negates a big issue of kickoff.
What are the turnaround passes like?
That I couldn't really tell. Trying to like to play kind of smart. I felt it was better than 19 in terms of like less passes connected, but again, you have assisted passing. But it was not like to the levels I would like it to be. Like obviously you would like 180-degree pass to be like dead, you know, kind of like shooting, 180 shooting.
Unless you're actually going for a back heel or something.
Yeah, if you press LT and you
If
go
you
for a
press
back heel,
LT and you go for it,
yeah,
yeah, of
that's
course.
no issue. That's no issue. Otherwise, yeah, I felt like it was better than it should be, but a bit more nerfed than like a bit like worse than 19. And we gave them feedback again regarding this. You know how like on 18, 19, one of the reasons why it's easy to time waste is because like for example, you have the ball with Valencia on FIFA 18 with your right back. He has a one-star weak foot, and you could no problem just ping a ball across the field with your left foot of Valencia that's one star, and land perfectly in your left back's feet, right?
Yes.
And we told them that's way too easy. Like you should have a fix for that. Like kind of be it a lot more inconsistent. Just have like players with really good stats be able to do that on their strong foot, not like wing backs with bad passing, bad weak foot. And they said like they noted it and they could implement it hopefully.
Okay. What are the interceptions like for defensive AI when you're not controlling them?
I didn't like it. I didn't feel it was that much of a like FIFA 17. If you did a dumb pass, like that was just like not perfect or not smart. Like the AI would intercept it, right? But
Mm-hmm.
back then, even on FIFA 17, the AI was also pretty dumb.
Yeah.
Um, on on like the way assisted passing is right now, it's hard to say. Like if I felt like what do you say like AI interceptions, right? Like if your AI is you're between the ball and the player you're aiming to, the AI will get it, unless of course the pass is assisted and like just moves in a dumb direction because the attacking player started making a run, right?
Right.
Um, Otherwise, I think, but I can't really say. That's just a feeling I have. It's no specific memory I can recall, so I don't want to be too going too much into details into it. Um, but I felt like just manually defending was better. And because I don't AI, because I try to switch as much as possible, I can't really tell you about that.
Right. Did you try chaining skill moves?
Yeah,
And what's it
and
like?
that's my personal opinion. Well, it's not an opinion. The way it was on 20 is like you do one, obviously it's perfect. You do a second one, the ball goes a bit further away and you become a bit more slow. You do a third and the ball goes even further away and even more slower. And like by the third one, you're probably losing the ball.
Okay.
My personal opinion should be that the same skill move should be impossible to be chained, or like the same skill move even in the same combo chaining combo. But if you decide to chain like a heel to heel into a ball row into a drag back, I feel you should be okay.
Yeah.
However, the like community is pretty divided on this. Like I know Kurt like thinks you shouldn't be able to like chain skill moves at all. I see clips on Twitter of people chaining skill move in open space, well timed against people who defend very badly and like overcommit stupidly, where I don't think that's an issue. But like it's about finding a middle ground. Like I feel, for example, the way it is right now is good for the same skill move, whereas for different skill moves, it should happen not after the second, but after the third, for example,
Right.
just to be able to chain an extra one. But I don't know how that easy it is to code, and I didn't think of that like middle ground solution back then. So I haven't given the feedback, but I'm gonna send some feedback in the coming days. So
So
I'm gonna
you're
write
saying
that down.
that like your thoughts is like if you do a heel to heel and ball roll, that should be fine, but if you do a heel to heel, then that's when it should get
Yeah,
worse.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly. That's my personal opinion because you kind of also kill like the fun in the game for people like Mario Scarpset, Kazooie, etc.,
It's true.
who are not right, who I wouldn't say base their content off that, but that's how they started. That's what they're famous for.
Right.
So, and it's not like that overpoweredly broken that it should be fixed. The only player who does it very well, and again, because he's the best in the world, is Tex. So I don't feel like against pros mostly.
Right.
So I don't feel it's like that much of an issue to be fixed. It's just like the croqueta spam and elastico spam that caused that to happen. Good news about the croqueta, which I know everybody cares about, it's fucking gone. And what I mean gone is like you can only do it forward, so just the normal croqueta. You cannot exit to the side or like to the inside, you know, like the sharp inside turn.
Yeah.
You cannot chain them, obviously. Even if you do one croqueta, the ball is kind of bouncy. But if you chain a second one, like you're slower to accelerate to the ball that goes further away from you.
Okay.
So it's like you maybe doing one would maybe be an issue in the box. We didn't really try it, but even then I felt tackling was good enough. But like doing more than one, nah, not possible.
If you know that someone is going to exit a certain direction for a skill move, is it easy to defend against? So if you know someone's going to exit with a skill move to the right, can you defend to the right properly?
Yeah, because like this year when you press tackle, like the game registers as if you're falling for a skill move and they tackle like wayward, right?
Okay.
I can't really tell because like I didn't play people that skill like that much, and we just tried the basic mechanics in terms of dribbling, passing, and stuff. And I spent most of my time in these 2 days just playing one game, recording it, so like 20 minutes, and then spending 25 more minutes with the devs, just breaking the game down, showing them what animations are wrong, what's good, etc. So I didn't play that much in 2 days. I just played, for me, it was quality over quantity, and just then give feedback at at the venue just to be able to show the devs in videos what we mean. So it's not like I played that many games to try every scenario. But I felt like most of the times in terms of dribbling, like whenever I knew my opponent was doing something, I was getting the ball back.
Okay. Did you play players that weren't pro players?
I might have played one game, but I'm not sure. Oh yeah, I played one of the game developers who's obviously not as good as pro players.
Yeah.
And I loved it because the first goal he scored was a pass that I read perfectly. It was an A pass or an X pass on PlayStation that I read perfectly, and the game adjusted it so hard that he went on 1v1, and I'm like, this. I know where you pass the ball. You know where you pass the ball. Fix this shit, please.
Okay, so that's what you were trying to bring up with like trying to avoid the defending player. Because if your thumbstick is aiming in that general direction, you shouldn't avoid the defending player. That's a really good point. And you mentioned that to them, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like I've mentioned that to them throughout the FIFA 18 year, and like when I played the game with like Sam Rivera, one of the game devs. He literally, his first goal was like this. I'm like, this shit. You know what I'm talking about. And another guy was watching us. He was like, yeah, I'm going to take a video of that. So he knew what I was talking about. When I played him, I even timed red 2 shots. But that's because like there's another issue in 20 so far that is going to be fixed. That like players take like extra touches, like extra steps, like the small starter steps before releasing a pass or a shot.
Right.
Which, you know, when you want to pass upwards and then in your mind, your pass is already going upwards, so you aim downwards to run towards the ball with the player.
Yes.
Like there were, because of those small starter steps, it's not even delay, it's just those small starter steps in terms of like player movement. They are too late to release the pass, and that's why it happens. So you had a few scenarios like these, and that's why I read some shots. But even then, like I'm good at time finishing in a way. So my first couple of shots against Megabit, for example, were green. But like it's because also I shot them so late in order to avoid being anything different than green. So for me, it was like either green or white. Like I would rather it be white than like risk yellow or green, right?
Right.
So green is, I wouldn't say it's easy, but if you go with the mindset of I'm gonna press it in the last possible second, thinking even I'm gonna white it, you can like have more success. But it's generally a kind of a high risk, low reward mechanic.
Okay. Referee decision making, that's not something you can really see in 2 days. Oh, how was it though? If you can.
Yeah, far away.
He's talking to a guy who tested 20. Trying to think of anything else that really bothers me. Logical finishing is important. Defensive AI, we mentioned. Interceptions off the ball, we mentioned. How's attacking AI off the ball?
Again, I can't really tell as the defensive AI is nerfed. So obviously your attacking AI looks better because your opponent's AI doesn't track all these runs and they don't position themselves perfectly. So obviously you have more space when your opponent isn't covering everything. If he doesn't cover everything manually, you have more space. So I
Mm-hmm.
can't really say because I didn't look at the footage that way, the specific attacking players, the runs that we're making. And I only had 2 days, so you can't really tell. What we noticed though, and again that's changed into 20, and we had this explained to us, is like on 19, if you look at like the game itself, players are making like dumb movements. Like they're off the ball and they'll just like run 5 meters in one direction, then do a sharp turn, run 2 meters in another one, then do a sharp turn, do 1 meter in another direction, etc., etc. It
Mm-hmm.
just looks very unnatural, very dumb, and it's like energy consuming. So one thing we noticed is like first of all, stamina depletion is like stamina is lasts a lot longer, and that's because players don't just like run stupidly across the pitch without the ball. They're just like more static, kind of more realistic, still open up spaces, but they don't just frantically run left, right, center, right?
So
Um,
do you feel the game is more consistent from the first minute to the 90th minute in regards to how your players feel?
define that. Like, what do you mean
So
exactly?
like in the last 10 minutes, your players feel like shit?
No, not exactly. The thing is, I don't even feel that on 19 that much, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, but like, I do play with like literally the best players in the game because like fucking pay to win and
Mm-hmm.
weekend league.
Yeah.
But it's not something like again hard to tell because you don't know the variables if it's stamina, if it's gameplay, if it's FIFA 20, or if it's like mechanics or anything, if it's head to head. So that's something like very subjective. So you need to play a lot more to be able to tell, especially foot.
Do you get screwed more for using constant pressure?
Again, we didn't try that much. You
Uh-huh.
don't in terms of stamina. I wouldn't say a lot more. Like your players obviously lose stamina, but like it's not that overpowered. Like it's not that effective. Like if you use a constant pressure, it's kind of easy to play against if your opponent's not good.
Right.
And if your opponent's very good, he probably will not use constant pressure. Like it's not that overpowered to be like, I'm gonna use it, I'm gonna win. And therefore it's not that punishable, like you don't get punished that much for it in terms of stamina. Obviously, like constant pressure like makes sense. You leave a lot of open gaps, which are easy to exploit against bad defenders, or like if you're a good attacker.
Right. Okay.
That's how I felt, at least in the 2 games I played against someone using constant pressure just to try it out. I didn't feel the threat of being under constant pressure. Um, and obviously they were not like wide open because they were pros, so they knew how to defend. But it was generally like
Okay. What is the X and A defending like?
uh, X and A. This is the contain, right?
Contain, yeah.
Again, yeah, because we're pros, we don't use contain, so I have no idea. Like I didn't use contain.
Right.
My opponents didn't use contain. We use second man press. Obviously, it's not like 19. Like they don't mirror your every move, and I felt they kept a bit more of a distance from you. But then again, that's because when you're with the ball and you're moving, like it's harder for them to catch up because they're not that overpowered and they don't mirror your moves.
Do they overcommit to you when you second man press?
Um, you mean like if I drag back, or what do you mean?
If you
Like
do
do
a
they
skill
glue
move,
themselves?
if you do a skill move backwards, do they register a block forwards?
Mm, I do they register a block for? I
Yeah,
don't I
so like
don't I can't
I'll give
imagine.
an example, right? Like second man press and Pez, those guys are committing on you. So if you do a skill move in the opposite direction, if you see the general area that they're committing to, you can go in the other direction and avoid that. When you second man press in FIFA, do they ever try to actually tackle you?
Oh no, they don't tackle you. Like the AI doesn't tackle like that. The AI on second man press on 19 doesn't tackle. It just kind of glues itself to you. And if you run to them, it tackles kind of the ball because you ran into them.
Yeah.
But on 20, like they don't run into you. They're not glued to you. They're like kind of a bit further away, but that's because the AI doesn't mirror your move. So whenever you move, they're kind of further away. and it doesn't tackle. Like it's easy to beat if like your opponent's only second man pressing and trying to AI with it. It's like you can even kind of run past it in a way. But if you just like do a 1-2 or like a quick skill move into open space and then or like a running fake shot or something, like you're away from that AI player.
What's the acceleration like from defending when you switch to them?
Well, again, related to gameplay, we don't know if it's head to head, if it's bad gameplay, or if it's FIFA 20 mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't say. What I felt again, what I messaged you, like what I said in chat, like the jockey on FIFA 20, I fucking loved it.
Right.
Like when you jockey on FIFA 20, your defenders feel so agile. Like on head to head, we're talking. Like the first time I jockeyed on that, I was like, bro, what the fuck is this? Like this feels amazing. Like you just jockey, your player like just like glides, but like glides as if you're in control. Like
Responsibly?
perfectly in control. Yeah, like
Okay.
a lot more responsibly. Like if you're sprinting or jockeying or jogging, but like if or like walking or whatever, just running with no sprinting.
So that's
But
just
like
like
when you're
typical R2, L2 mechanics, right?
yeah
Okay.
when you jockey like with L2, it just like it feels good like because you can patiently wait for your opponent to do something and then tackle. And like if you tackle with the new mechanic, like with the new dribbling, like they can avoid your tackle. Where I'm yet to see if that's too OP because I felt it was hard to tackle. Like you know your opponent's doing it backwards, so you just want to run to him and like overcommit and tackle him. You kind of can't. It's not like you tackle the ball stays with him. You just miss the tackle. It's a weird one. Like they I have to play it more like again on foot to be able to tell. But because it wasn't really muscle memory for us to do that shit, we didn't do it that much. Like the occasional time you're like, oh wait, that exists, I want to try it out. But then like the next attack you don't try it out because you don't think about it.
Okay. Can you get red cards in any other way apart from tackling from behind? I mean,
No idea.
yeah,
Like we didn't.
that's a weird one.
Yeah, yeah. I see. I kind of see what you mean. Like, but those are like kind of more like um, glitches. Like when you like push and pull someone, they don't fall on FIFA 19, it just gives a red card or something. Like those are like just isolated glitches. I feel. And again, only 2 days. Like far from enough playing to be able to see stuff like that.
What's the driven passes like?
That was an issue. That was an issue. Like driven passes in clear space, like no pressure on you, no pressure on the player you're passing to. Like a pass that's not too far away, but it's also not too close, was just very inaccurate.
Okay.
So that's an issue. Like that's feedback we gave that driven passes were very inaccurate and very easy cases, and that's something they'll like touch upon.
Right.
But generally, like the first touch it wasn't perfect, but it wasn't bad. It was just like kind of what driven should be. But again, that's a lot of my memory talking. I can't picture it.
Do you feel like the dribbling was responsive when you received the ball from a pass?
Dribbling, I don't know. It definitely had nothing to do with dribbling on 18. Like that's out of the question. Dribbling with good players, like with Neymar, for example, it felt good. Like it felt good. After a pass and stuff, it's too specific for me to recall since I didn't pay attention to it specifically back then. So I can't really say. But I felt like dribbling with a Neymar, for example, and like doing a skill move with him is like a lot better than with other players, like kind of how it is generally.
Did you try the new chip pass?
Yeah, I did.
Is it effective?
I don't know if that's gonna be. I didn't try it in like my opponent comes to tackle and I chip pass, so I can't really say. I just tried it. I'm like, it works. Cool. I'm not gonna use it now because I want to test more important stuff.
Right.
I thought it could like back when I saw like that happens. I thought it could be in a way OP because like there's no mechanic to tackle in the air.
Right.
But again, you need to play more to see if it works, if it's OP, if it's not. There's this one thing they've added to add like kind of more realism. You know how in real life, like when you pass, the ball's not glued to the ground, so like the ball kind of bounces.
Right.
That was supposed to result into like first time passes and shots be more inaccurate. Like in real life, you don't have control of the ball, you don't bounce first time. like shot or pass is more inaccurate.
Right.
In some cases it was noticeable, but like you had those close, like those passing from close distance. Like if you play against someone who's playing narrow and they just decide to spam X, like it was way too easy to pass and like obviously hard to switch and intercept. So that was an issue. But generally, if you want a first time pass for, like if you give a kind of a longer pass where the ball has time to bounce and try first time pass from there, you can kind of see an inaccuracy. But I think they have to like focus a bit more on that and make them more inaccurate. But if you do like a touch and then pass, then it's perfectly fine.
Can you do layoff passes where it's like someone passes the ball to you, they run into you, and you just lay it off to them?
Kind of like from free kicks in a way.
I don't know if you remember, but like, do you remember like no, like do you remember FIFA 18 pre-patch had this and then it was removed for some reason. I don't know why. There was a way to pass the ball where when you pass the ball to someone and then that person that passed the ball was running towards you, you can just lay it off to them, like a little soft little pass, and then they could just like continue on with the ball.
I honestly, and I didn't think these things existed, but like that's one mechanic I literally do not remember.
Okay.
So I can't recall that. There's another thing they've added. It's just a layoff for yourself. As like, you know, like when you stand still, you step on the ball and you just like push it a bit forward to then start kind of running towards it for a shot, like for a power shot or whatever, if you have a lot of open space. Kind of like in real life, you have a lot of open space, so you just like stop the ball to like put it in standstill.
You roll it to have momentum on it.
Yeah, you kind of roll it a bit to have momentum, and then like take 2 heavy steps to then like shoot it with power, like just kick it up the field.
So they actually do that in the game.
That's an added mechanic. You can manually trigger it.
Right.
So like if you have a lot of time on the ball and you feel like you have space for a long shot, you just like do the command to push that ball into open space, and then you can shoot it.
Okay, so you can actually put momentum on the ball now. Good.
That was a specific case where you can lay off the ball, but you need kind of time because they trigger an animation where they run to the ball. So they run up to the ball. So you kind of need the open space. I didn't try it at all. I heard someone try it and say it was way too overpowered in terms of you can do that layoff with the first touch. So like you pass the ball to someone and with the first touch you trigger that, it's kind of hard to anticipate and counter.
Right.
So I think they might do it so that you cannot do it with the first touch.
Yeah, because it's more like when you're just dribbling generically and then you're in open space and then you use it to shoot it, right? That makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. That's something they've added. I haven't tested out, so I don't know how overpowered shots are from it. But yeah.
Set pieces, we got through that. I had something and then I lost it. It was there and now I don't have it. Man, there was one thing I had and now it's gone. Heading of 50-50s in the air are different now.
Oh yeah, definitely. I felt like the 50-50 mechanic from FIFA 19 was either improved or removed, one of both. Because like, you know, when you tackle someone, the ball goes into throw-in and you're like, how's the fuck is that not my ball? Like that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And that only happens in 19 because of the 50-50 mechanic. The game just registers differently, yada, yada, yada. So either it was removed or really like upgraded. But definitely like you can feel the change in that in terms of like the dodgy decisions that referees made for like throw-ins.
The question I want to ask my chat reminded me because they just read me so well is what is the pace like in that game?
And again, they had like presentation. I don't know how much I can talk like about the presentation itself, but it wasn't the gameplay, so it's not like it's top secret since we can talk about gameplay.
Right.
But basically, if you're in on net with a quicker player than the defenders, they're not gonna catch you. They're gonna catch up to you a bit, but they're not gonna catch you.
Mm-hmm.
If your player has good dribbling stats, they will not catch you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a player with good pace and good dribbling and you're chased by a Ramos, he will not catch you. If you're chased by a Varane, he will kind of catch up to you.
Right.
If you're facing like a player who is very like a team of the year defender who's very quick and very strong, he will catch up to you and like push you out. Like the example they gave is like you running with, they gave us like the combination like two attacking players and like two types of attacking players, two types of defending players. The examples they gave us: an attacking player with good pace but not that good dribbling, or an attacking player with good pace and good dribbling, chased by either a Ramos, so slower but stronger, or a Kante, quicker but not that strong. And in one scenario, you can see like it's like they catch up, but like they can't move you off the ball. In another scenario, it's harder for them to catch up, but if they do catch up, if the scenario allows it, it's easier for them to push you off the ball, etc. It just makes sense, right? You see that and you're like, oh, okay, so if I do a through ball here and I have like CR7 down the wing with good pace and good dribbling, I'm gonna be in on it.
Right. So it's like a tactical decision whether you want to have high depth or you want to have low depth to avoid those as much as possible.
Exactly, depending on the players.
Right, but
Obviously,
momentum of the attacker is rewarded more against the momentum of the defender.
in a way, yeah. And
Okay.
one thing I felt also as a change on FIFA 19, you know how when you do a lob through ball and you're kind of in on net, but your player just like takes
The extra push
very
touch.
weird. It's not even extra push touch. It's like he lets his body like kind of like train behind him to like gather the ball and like slows down a lot.
Right.
Yeah, kind of those mechanics. I didn't feel that in 20. There was no like a through ball where I'm like, oh, he slowed down again, like that happens.
Right.
I didn't feel it. So they've probably done something to it for me not to feel it. Maybe also it was due to the fact that like defenders don't catch up to you that much. So it's maybe a mix of both. But I felt that was a better scenario than 19.
Okay. So what are players like Cavani like in that game?
Usable, but again, like it's foot, so everybody's gonna try to use pace and like try to use like if you can use CR7, he's basically a Cavani with pace, right? So you won't really use those players if you're not forced to. But like because finishing is so good, like they have an advantage with finishing. They can like I don't know. They didn't stand out to me. Obviously, the Neymar and the Mbappe stood out because of like the skills, because of like the pace and stuff. But they're definitely usable. Like I feel even on 19, players like that are usable since pace is not that much of a factor. You can play with a target man. People play on low depth, so you can turn around and shoot. Even on 19, I feel they're kind of usable.
Okay.
So like on 20 as well, in a way.
The skill moves we already went through, Kazooie. What about general possession? Can you keep the ball easily from the opponent? Probably been covered. Yeah, what's possession like against defenders?
Um,
If someone is a good defender, can they get the ball off you even if you think you're good at possession?
Again, like I told you, we didn't time waste or like try to hold excessively the ball.
Yeah.
I didn't play French people in order to test that really. I think, well, they do like they're known for playing possession, so that's
Yeah.
not just like they play possession, and most of them play nice possession. They don't play possession just like for the sake of holding the ball.
Yeah.
So I didn't really play French people to be able to tell, but I felt like because like my issue with possession, for example, 19 is like you won't see the ball for like 10, 15 minutes. Then you'll like tackle the ball, but it will go back to your opponent, and you're like, okay, now here we go again, right?
Right.
Whereas on 10 on FIFA 20, if you're staying like compact for like 10, 15 minutes and like be smart on when to overcommit, and you actually do a successful tackle, the ball is coming back to you. So it's more you can live with not having the ball because you know that when you actually decide to overcommit and take the ball, you will get it if you time it well.
What's the first time shots like?
The only first time I can recall taking is like the one where the ball comes parallel to the goal and like I shoot it facing the goal.
Okay,
So it
and
was the first time shot.
did you score that
in
one?
a way, yeah, I scored that. It makes
Okay.
sense like to
It
shoot
makes
that one
sense.
because I'm facing the ball,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm facing the goal. Otherwise, like shots like to the side, I can't really like. Obviously, we were taking shots like this because it's muscle memory because of 19. But I didn't feel like we scored some shots where like, oh, how the hell is that going? Like that's FIFA 19.
Right.
We tried a couple from outside the box and stuff. Like I don't think it was even close to like resulting to a goal. But then again, that's not Ultimate Team. That's not like players with dumb stats. So we have to test it on foot.
Right. The one thing I wanted to say, like, what were like the huge, like, I know we mentioned it already, but like, what What was your like huge underlying issues with that game in general?
Um, like
Like, what's just
the
something that
gameplay
like this
speed.
cannot gameplay speed? Okay,
Oh, but
right,
it's not even the gameplay speed. It's like I don't mind the gameplay speed being like this. It's more about the players themselves.
right,
I don't mind playing in kind of a slower gameplay, but like the players, I want them to be kind of more agile and a bit more quick.
right,
It's weird to explain. Like there's a
right.
difference between both.
I mean,
Like
I understand
the
completely
way,
what you mean.
yeah, the way players feel in jockeying on 20. That's how I want the general feel of the game to be in terms of players.
Right,
The way attacking players feel when you L1 R1 dribble, like the new crab walk or whatever, the way they kind of feel in that dribble, that's how I want the general feel to be in attacking.
so the crab walk
Um,
is the new thing to use in FIFA 20. That's like the thing you should
yeah,
use.
like again, we haven't tested near enough to see how OP it is and stuff,
Right.
but it looks kind of effective just to like keep the ball close to your feet, and kind of wait for the perfect moment to pass or like to break through. Um, Again, I don't know how OP it is. It just looks like it could be OP. One of those things, like yeah, kind of a new mechanic. Sometimes it's OP.
Hmm.
Um, Otherwise, issues is like they had a few issues, but they were like, yeah, we are aware of this. Like the team in Vancouver is working on it, so those are not even like that much worth mentioning. Um, but yeah, I think generally the gameplay speed. But again, is it head to head? Is it FIFA 20? Is it bad gameplay? I can't really tell.
Right, because the gameplay's probably
Uh,
still inconsistent next year too. Because
yeah.
that's
So
that's like a really advanced issue to fix in general. So you don't know if it's bad
yeah.
gameplay or if
Oh
it's
yeah.
just that game just being like that in general.
Exactly. Or if it's head to head because you don't have players on steroids.
Right.
So I think like that was my main issue. It wasn't. Yeah, that's the only thing I can really think about. Other issues are like things that are fixable and they were working on. There was no like. Obviously, we've only played 2 days, and like me, most of my time I spend it showing the developers footage of the games I played. So I just like play 5 games, have 20 clips, and just like spend 3 hours talking to the devs, right?
Right.
Um, so 1 second, because I saw Kazooie post a link, so I'm curious to see it. I assume it's a skill. If it's a skill run, it's probably not possible. Let me say that.
Permit his link. Kazooie.
So no, Kazooie, just FYI, it's not possible. So what you did at the start, like with the first skill move, and then if you can't change dribbling. Like different skill moves, you cannot change them. Like in my opinion, is there should be a middle ground. The same skill move should not be chainable. Different skill moves should be chainable up to like 2 or 3, but then have like the effect of that nerf apply. If you, however, like do I don't know, a heel to heel, then just like a dribbling touch, just like a touch, and then do something else. In terms of skill moves, that's when it works. But if you like fully chain them one after the other, it doesn't. Yeah, I know it's not overpowered. Like that's my opinion as well. Especially if like players can't defend or if it's like well timed and they overcommit. I don't think it's overpowered. I mentioned that. That's my personal opinion as well because like I like skilling generally. But it's all about if I'm part of the majority, the minority, how they feel about that, and like what the general feedback is. Because like most players don't think that's realistic or like don't feel that makes sense. So it's very subjective. I think there's more of a middle ground to be found. But honestly, I prefer the way it is on 20 than the way it is on 19. Of course, they fixed croqueta and like just skill moves a bit in general. So that's kind of a fix, and therefore chaining skill move fix is an overkill. But it's about finding a middle ground, and we'll see what feedback they've had from these sessions, and if they do more, what feedback they're going to get from there.
The thing is too is that like I think like a big variable to consider when it comes to training skill moves is how good the defending is when you know where the person's gonna exit from, right? So I think like the chaining of the skill moves, if it's like two of the same ones, it makes sense to just start making them terrible. But the ones afterwards, if defending is good, I don't see it being a bad thing. But it's like Nightwatch said, the way that he played it, it's you preferred it more in 20 than you do in 19, even if you can change the skill moves, right?
Yeah, exactly. But that was also my argument. 'Cause I asked someone who is against skill moves and chaining. If defending, because like one of the issues on 19 is when somebody croquettes into you and you press tackle, you're most likely not going to get it.
Right.
Or even if you like hit the ball, it's going to bounce back to them and whatever. And like if they chain them, it makes it even more broken. Whereas on 20, first of all, they cannot like do a croqueta to the side, so that's nerfed. They can't do two croquetas in a row if that fix is kept in terms of the same skill moves. So that's nerfed. And you can, when you tackle, the ball goes back to you. So that's a fix for defending. So when you have those three aspects for defending skill moves and like skill moves in general, you don't need the chaining skill moves that much as you would on 19, right? So it's absolute overkill. So if they take that into consideration, and like if I play on 20 without the chaining skill moves for different skill moves and can defend perfectly because I know where my opponent's going, then okay. Then I think they're going to be like, oh, okay. So he defends well, he gets the ball. He defends poorly, he gets like caught between skill moves, right? So I think it's on them to see how it looks without that mechanic and see if defending is viable, like manual defending is viable when you know what they're going to do, for them to then revert it to like a middle ground.
Yeah, because the thing is too is that like even the goal that Kazooie scores, and some people don't look at it like this, is that it's not you don't even know if the person that is playing the game was able to defend against that well enough, because the switching is bad and the transitioning is bad.
Yeah,
right.
Also, yeah, exactly.
So we don't know if that's like a fully skilled goal, because we know that defending in general in this game is terrible, right? So the goal looks great from the attack, from being able to skill those or to chain those skill moves like that, but the defending isn't good in this game, so you can't really say it's fully a skilled goal. His knowledge of where he should exit from the skill move is a skilled goal, because every exit, I'll show you guys, every exit decision that Kazooie chose was the right one, but you have to look at how the defending was, right? We don't know if the person's doing it right. You can't be like, oh, but he wasn't controlling the right person. The controlling the right person is not a thing in this game, right? Maybe it is for next year's game, maybe it isn't, but it depends, right? So let's just look at all the exits. First of all, that's a fantastic exit, right? That's a fantastic exit. That's a good first exit. That's a good first exit. That's a good first exit. He commits, but who knows if he's committing or if the game is sliding his player? We don't know, right? Then he switches off the person. We don't know if he's the one that's doing that switch right away, right? Because it does that from on the ground movement even when you have air balls on. But his exit decision here was good as well, right? He accelerates into the player, right? Over here, it's not crazy logical to accelerate in, but he wasn't controlling this player earlier. We don't know if he's able to control that player earlier or not, right? That there's so many variables to this, right?
Exactly.
And then this part right here is brilliant, because he uses his body to get in front of the defender right here, right? So he's behind, he's in front, he uses a skill move to put the body in front of the defender, right? So even if he overcommitted to a tackle, he would foul him, and then from the finesse shot he scores, right? So it's not a matter of just like looking at the whole thing and then being like, yo, this is a really nice goal, because it is. This is fantastic. Kazooie is really smart with the skill moves. He knows when to use some of them, right? But this is completely fine if the defending is good, but we don't know if the guy was able to defend against it well. So that's the biggest thing right now. And if they can't find a balance with good defending against the skill moves, right? If you are predicting it right, if you're moving correctly, then the simple solution for them is just going to be to remove it. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what it's going to be for them.
And not only that, like Kazooie will have a very hard time scoring this against a pro, because pros defend very well. So it's also a matter of you can probably defend that situation better if you're just better at the game, you know? Like the fix is not just nerf it because people cannot defend it, because if you're a pro, you're not conceding that unless you're facing someone like Tex, which is literally exception out of millions, right? So there's more, like you said, and even more to it.
Casual's gonna hate having to defend themselves. They're gonna complain, dude. their EA's team now is different than
I think
before,
they've
bro.
learned.
They're
Yeah, they've
different than
learned.
before, okay? Because they saw that the community complained about FIFA 18 pre-patch, and then when they patched that game, the people complained about getting FIFA 18 pre-patch again. So they understand. They EA, when they make mechanics in their game, and I mentioned this to them too, is that if their mechanics make sense, they need to put their foot down, because if people can force themselves to play this game right here, you'll be fine in FIFA 20, because nothing is worse than this. You know, like,
Yeah.
so, you know, like I said, the thing is, right, is that when it comes to FIFA 20, right, we can't make the comparison to FIFA 19 or 18 or 17, because these games were fucking terrible. Okay, we have to compare FIFA 19 to a separate game by itself. You know what I'm saying? So there's all those like variables to consider. But with the skilling of the chaining of the skill moves, right? It just really depends on how defending is. The reason why they did it is because their simple solution to avoiding spamming croquetas, spamming the what's the move that's Tex uses, the elastico, right? Spamming those skill moves. That's their simple solution to doing it, right? Should it be more specific so that the defense can respond well to where you're going to exit? Absolutely, right? But dude, EA needs to put their foot down, dude. Okay, if they have certain mechanics that make sense, they need to put their foot down, because people in FIFA 18 and people complained about that game when they only had to fix like 3 or 4 things in that game, and they made defensive AI good, goalkeepers good, blah blah, like the leg safe trade and all that stuff. They have to put their foot down. They have to make logical stuff in their game so that people who play 1 month, 2 months into the game, they can be like, you know what? I'm at fault for that. I'm at fault for that. Now, obviously, the whole big thing, and I think Nightwatch will agree with this, is the whole inconsistent gameplay thing, right? If your gameplay is consistently good, that's when you have a learning process. That's when it's like, I lost, but let me see why I lost. You know what I'm saying? So, a lot of variables to consider, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think EA will put their foot down? Brother, let me tell you something right now, man. The way that FIFA 19 was made, if casuals can play FIFA 19, you bet your fucking ass that if they put their foot down for FIFA 20, people would still play the game, bro. What are people gonna play, chat? PES? Listen, man, PES has improved their game, don't get me wrong. But PES is never gonna touch FIFA's level, bro. If PES...
But bro, they have event.
Brother, if PES can't touch FIFA's level right now, in this year's game, they will not touch FIFA ever. They won't, man. They will not touch FIFA. If they couldn't do it this year, last year, the year before, they will not touch FIFA's level, bro. It's as simple as that. Some people, it's always like this on YouTube, okay? Always. It's always like, oh, I'm going to play PES instead. But when FIFA drops, you're going to get FIFA. I'm getting PES, but I know that with a game I want to be good is FIFA. So that's like... Yeah. You know, that's just like the general thing, man. That's just how it is. It's like buying NBA 2K and NBA Live. Who the fuck's gonna want to get NBA Live? You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't make sense. It's not that PES is trash. It's just PES is so far behind in general things in their game, right? As a video game, that like they're not gonna catch up to FIFA in a long time, dude.
Yeah. Now, especially with stuff that's implemented in 20 in terms of mechanics and in terms of like features like contested headers and stuff, things that generally make sense. Of course, like something's gonna be probably OP on FIFA 20 that is gonna be fixed for FIFA 21. But the main idea is like those things that are broken to have a lot less of an impact on the final result of a game between two players than it does on 19. Because like if you watch like events, like pro tournaments, like 9 out of 10 goals are goals that should not be happening.
Right.
Be it kickoff, rebounds, tackles going perfectly, volleys, headers, anything broken, right? They're very rarely good passing plays, and when they happen, they don't always result in a goal. The idea is on FIFA 20, even if you have like a mechanic that's broken like volleys, let me compensate for it against a shit player, because like if you resort to that, you're probably not that good. Like that means you're not that good at defending. Like I'll be able to exploit you defending. So like if you score a random header or a cross, I'll be like the fact that you even rely on randomness, like tells me that you're not that good of a player. So I'll be able to beat you with skill in terms of like good attacking against your bad defending, etc., etc. So if you do a balanced game where the exploits have a lot less of an and like randomness and like glitches have a lot less of an impact on the final result, then that's a good game. Because like no game will ever be perfect or
Of
like
course.
inexploitable or without glitches. But the main idea is like to reward the players that play it properly and like just like not even play it properly, just like the better player generally.
Right.
Like just the better
There needs
player.
to be compensation for the better player, mostly. Like, if you're doing the right
Exactly.
stuff, you should get rewarded for it.
Yeah.
And then if random shit stuff happens, it's like, oh, well, you know, what shit happens. You know
I
what I'm
can
saying?
compensate
You
for it.
could compensate
Exactly.
for it with good finishing, good dribbling, or whatever the fuck, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or good defending, like manual tackling, for example. Because like the way I see it, manual defending can never be too OP
Right.
because it's fucking manual. Like if it's AI defending, it can be OP because it doesn't depend on you. But if it's manual defending, it cannot be OP. Like you can make every tackle bounce back to my opponent when he tackles me, and I will not complain. But if you make 75% of the tackle go to the player you've tackled, be it when you're attacking or defending, at some point you have an issue. But in no scenario you complain, oh, the ball goes back to my opponent after he tackled me. Like if you think like that, like it does make sense, right?
Right. Right. I want to win 99% of signing tackles if I did it correctly, not the current 25%. It's not even 25%.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, you could say it's 25. Samuel, thank you so much for the prime, so my dude. I appreciate it, brother. Um,
Um, I think you must have saw Run the Foot Market had a video a couple of days ago with a ridiculous offside call.
yeah, I did.
Yeah, I actually never seen that on 19 like ever,
Yeah,
and I
neither have
have
I.
like 3K games up. But in 2 days of FIFA 19, it happened to me once, FIFA 20. It happened to me once. And I'm like, wow, what the fuck is this? I thought it was just like an issue with 20. I showed it to like the game devs and they're like, we're gonna forward that to the team like that is responsible for offsides and like those scenarios. Because it happened to me with like Di Maria being offside, but me passing to a like completely different direction and player. So I actually had that happen to me on FIFA 20 before I actually saw it on 19. So that's how rare of a thing it is. But it's just like a game issue. It's not like scripting or DDA or whatever. And it's something like they'll just investigate and they'll probably fix. But it happens so rarely that they didn't even know it exists, right?
I was gonna mention something, and I had it, and now it's completely gone. Does the canceling actually work in that game?
Like when you pass, when you run towards the ball to cancel running.
Yes.
To be fair, that works on 19 as well.
And no, it doesn't. I can
Oh,
spam
I do
L2
it.
R2 and it does not work.
Depends on what you like. If I do a through ball to offside and I see him being offside, if I hold L2 R2 and run away, he will stop running towards the ball.
It doesn't do it for me.
Well, do you hold it or do you spam it?
I've tried both. The only reason why I spam it is because the holding it didn't
Yeah,
do anything.
I've started doing that like a few weeks slash months ago, where like I do a pass where either like the pass is delayed or for whatever reason my player's offside, and like he's not close enough to the ball to fully lock onto it, but he will run towards that ball. And if I just press L2 R2 and run backwards, he will stop running towards it. Like try it out in some scenarios and it actually kind of works, I feel. Not in all the scenarios because like most of the time they're too close and they lock onto it like too late for you to switch off it. And I don't think that has changed for 20. But in 19, even if you like pass the ball down the line when your player's offside, if you just hold L2 R2 and run away from the ball, he kind of like stops.
Do you ever feel like the game changes when you play?
In terms of gameplay,
Yeah.
well, again, we only play 2 days. Is it kickoff? Is it gameplay? Is it head to head?
Mm.
Again, you can't say. Um,
There's one
there are a
registration
few.
thing I wanted to mention too. I
Yeah,
forgot what it was.
yeah. Well, meanwhile, I'm gonna say there were a
Yeah.
few issues that were still present on 20 that I gave feedback through the whole of FIFA 19. They're still there. The ball roll where they like push the ball downwards or like further away as if you're
The
pressing
acceleration
sprint.
touch, yeah.
It's not even. Yeah, it's even worse than acceleration touch because it's like very far away, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that happened to me. The issue where you intercept the ball and like it doesn't let you switch, like the ball is very close to another player or whatever, and your player
You
just runs
still
after the
can't
ball.
switch?
It didn't happen to me. Somebody said it happened to them once, so I
Okay.
haven't seen it myself. and like most of the things, if I don't see it myself, I don't really believe it. But like it was a pro, so I'm more likely to believe it than not. So I think that could have been still an issue.
But that's something that they would have probably recorded if it happened at that
Yeah,
exact
like
moment.
I've sent them clips throughout 19, so I don't know if like they know how to fix it and stuff.
Right.
But I saw it in 20. Um,
What are
but
the
like
what are the running fake shots like?
somebody asked me that today. It's like if they're considered a skill move. So like if you chain two or three, like the ball goes further and further away.
Right.
Um, if you do one, it's kind of similar, but you know on 19 how you do it when your opponent slash defender is like a couple feet in front of you, and like when you do it, you kind of morph through them.
Yes.
That I didn't notice that happening on 20.
Right.
So like if I do that, I didn't really notice them like morphing through my opponent.
Because the whole point of that skill move is to pretty much put your body in front of the person while you're
Yeah, kind
accelerating
of,
into them. Yeah.
yeah. But I didn't. I think again that's kind of from memory. Like the first time I saw that in a scenario where I'm used to my player just morphing in front of him, it didn't happen. I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
Right. Okay. Advanced fake shots are OP as hell. Good to hear. Yeah, that's where I like the chaining thing to be nerfed. That's where I like it because it's so idiotic, man. To like just chain them 3 times and your physical presence just carries the weight of the ball the whole entire time.
Yeah, if you do them twice, it's in open space. It's okay because you have the open space to kind of lose control of the ball.
Yep.
But like if you do it more than once into a defender or near a defender, you kind of like you're kind of screwed.
Did you try doing the drag back in that game?
Um, yes. Like again, if you do it after a skill move or after a skill move or two, like the exit of the drag back goes further away.
Right.
So that was noticeable. But in terms of like beating players, I didn't really try it because sadly it's not part of my game, and I'm trying to implement it more and more. Um, so I can't really tell. Like in 2 days, that's one of the things I also didn't test that much.
Right. I'm not gonna lie to you, me. I'm not gonna lie to you. You're kind of giving me a little bit of a hope here. You know what I'm saying? I don't
Like that's how
know.
I feel, and that's not only because I've played the game and I've seen it, but because of the attitude I see of like EA in general in terms of like Corey, Zaro, and game developers. Just like they care, like they care a lot more than what I've seen so far in previous editions,
Right.
and that's what gives me hope more than what we have, which is actually also better than 19, which is not difficult.
This is actually a really good question. Did you try the dummy and then chase after the ball?
Uh, I think I might have tried it once or twice, like when you pass from your cam to your winger
And
and
then
you
you let
dummy
the
it
ball
towards
go,
the
and then you
throw-in
run after
line.
it.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah. It was. I think it was kind of similar to 19, especially with AI not being that OP. They don't like the AI doesn't expect it or like track it immediately or whatever.
Right. So when it's a
Like
natural
it's
position to
effective.
when it's a natural position to do
Yeah,
it, it works.
kind of. Yeah,
Right.
and like if your opponent reads it, then they can track you and stuff. Again, kind of manual defending relative to manual attacking, like smart attacking.
Did you play Volta when you were there?
Um, I must have played like the last day, like 5 minutes, but we're not allowed to talk about it anyway.
Okay.
We can only like I think the embargo on on foot, which we didn't play, is at the end of this month. Basically, the calendar that EA posted about news, like the embargo on us talking about gameplay was a few days ago, which is like the middle of the month, like the calendar said.
Yep.
On foot, like they said, news at the end of the month, which is like kind of when the embargo is, and there's embargo on Volta, which I don't care about because I didn't play
Wait.
Volta.
Okay. So do you? Because then I'm going to ask you this off stream. Do you know what the gameplay content is like for Ultimate Team next year?
No, I don't.
Okay. Because that's really big for me, man. That's huge
But
for
I
me.
feel honestly, it's just a hunch. Obviously, I don't know. Like I'm telling you openly, I have no idea since we didn't play foot.
Okay.
And even if we did, I doubt it would be like the final thing because it's just like in terms of players. But I feel after this year, in terms of the pro scene and stuff, uh, because obviously pay to win is a very like contextual term because pay to win can be regarding players be very good, like the good players be good, and it could mean just the best way to achieve the players is through money, right?
Right.
On 19 you have both.
Right.
On previous editions you didn't have like, the very good players stand out a lot more, and each year that difference becomes more and more noticeable. But the way FIFA 19 went backwards is it was until team of the season it was impossible through gameplay and through weekend league or whatever to get the best team in the game, right? And I feel especially for qualifiers and like people are massively disadvantaged when like if they don't spend money. I think they've seen that, and not only I feel we will have restrictions for qualifiers, like that will happen, but the thing like the general masses care about, like the ones that don't compete, I feel that they will, and of course there are a lot of teams working on this, so it's not like the competitive team is like, oh, we're just going to change reward. It's a whole ecosystem, so I assume it's a lot more complex than that. But I feel they will make better players more obtainable through gameplay in terms of like if you're top 100 you will get rewarded for being top 100. If you're like division 1 you'll get rewarded for it, like get better rewards.
Right.
Again, not to say that if you're like gold you won't have a chance at the good players, but like if you're a very good player you will be rewarded consistently with good players,
Right.
good items.
Right.
That's how I feel that's how I feel they will do it after what we've had this year.
Yeah.
And the feedback we've given, and that's also the way I think it should be.
Mm-hmm. That sounds really good. That's what he's thinking they're gonna do. That's not what is actually.
Yeah, that's my feeling. That's
yes, it's a feeling.
Also my hope, but I think it kind of makes sense logically after what we've had this year in the competitive scene. This year pay to win was big.
There's two different types of passes that I want to ask you about. What are the lob passes like in that game?
Yeah, when you said pass, I kind of thought about two things.
Yeah.
So first of all, you have two new passes. You have lob-driven passes. So it's like a lob ball, but like a more driven one, like a harder one.
So
you know what I mean?
That's like good for like fullback to fullback?
Nah, like it's a through ball, but it's driven.
Oh.
Yeah, maybe for fullback. I haven't even tried it, but like when you see your playing making a run behind a defender, you don't want to make it too lobbed. You just want to make it like hard, like just powerful, but you also want it to be lobbed.
So you can aim it manually into that general space?
Well, depending on your settings, because we play it on assisted, obviously, because FIFA.
Yeah.
But the issue with those was like you didn't put a lot of power and they went too far away. That was an issue that they were working on.
Right.
So I assume that will be fixed. I hope. But that was a new type of pass. You can lob driven a pass, and I didn't feel it was overpowered. It was just like normal, right? It made sense to do it. You do it.
Yeah.
You have free open space. Nobody is around you to block it, so you can do it. It could be effective like for the way you cannot do it on 19. In and around the box when you want to do a lobbed pass, but like a driven lob pass to like put your player in on net, but when you're very close to the net, because you don't have the time, like you don't have the luxury of putting a very lobbed ball, like a lot of time in the air. I think it could be good for those cases, but we haven't tried them that much. And another type of pass is on FIFA 19, if you press L1, R1, and then do a pass, or just an X pass, PlayStation, it's a manual pass. Like that's a mechanic. No matter what your settings are, if you do L1, R1, and then a pass towards a direction, that's a manual pass in terms of power and in terms of accuracy.
Yeah.
In 20, you can't do that manual pass anymore. It's replaced with basically the L1 pass is a pass where your player runs with you. You know, he wants the ball in like a through ball. And when you do the R1 pass, it's a driven pass, right?
Right.
If you do both on FIFA 20, you get a driven pass with your player making a run. So that could be good for some scenarios.
Did they bring back? Well, obviously it was in this game, but it wasn't supposed to be in because the commands were completely wrong. Did they bring back the low-driven finesse?
Not per se. I think like they haven't said, well, we're bringing it back, but I think they must have seen it was on 19. Well, they haven't touched upon it, but I would assume it's very much still possible.
Okay.
We haven't tried it, but I assume it's very much still possible. And I think it could be very effective with goalkeepers not being able to move that well.
Right. Like if the position makes sense and you do a driven finesse, you probably
Yeah,
score
kind
it.
of like FIFA 18 in a way, yeah.
Right.
I've thought about it. I think it could be very good. Because
Right.
on FIFA 19, it's unless you green it, it's not that effective, in my opinion.
It's true.
Like compared to other type of shots.
Yeah.
And if you don't green it, it's very, very bad. Like if you yellow it, whereas like power shot, if you yellow it, could still go in. Whereas on FIFA 20, you don't need to time shots. And if you do that with no goalkeeper movement, it can go in easily, I would feel, but I haven't tested it.
Is it still possible to take the penalties and free kicks generically like it is right now?
No.
It's so you have to learn to do it a different way.
Yeah.
Right.
And as well, they will add it back because we gave the feedback. They remove the first player camera when you take free kicks, like from the first half of your opponent's half. You know what I mean? Where there's no wall, but like all your players are in your opponent's half.
Right.
When you want to take a free kick like this, it doesn't give you the first person view. You always have like the co-op view, like the telebroadcast.
Because you don't need it. You just need to do a small pass.
Yeah, for example, you can still obviously do a small pass, but if you want to, for some reason, cross into the box while looking to the direction you want to cross into, you can't. They remove that camera, but they're going to bring it back.
The thing that I like so far that you mentioned to me is that manual goalkeeping and time finishing is still a thing, but they made them like close to irrelevant, essentially.
Exactly, that's how I feel it.
Right.
Like that's how it should have been.
It's like they
at
kept it in the. And that's what I, dude. It's funny because it's like
Exactly.
I mentioned that in that video when it came out. Is that it's like they kept it in just so that they can keep that concept of like, hey, we have something new in the game. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
but they made it so
'cause it's not a
irrelevant.
good look.
Right. They made
Yeah.
it so irrelevant that like you might not even have to use them. So that could be a good plus.
Tackling for me is the biggest thing,
Yeah. Let me see.
without a shadow of a doubt.
Oh,
Like for me, tackling is literally the biggest thing.
what about the head movement from penalties? Is that still there?
Penalties are different, so I feel they'll still be touched upon. Like penalties, like the run up is like they're just different, right? So like the aiming is different, everything's kind of different. So it's just a new system. In my personal opinion, I know a lot of people disagree, and I don't get why. Head movement thing is good. I think
it's good too.
Yeah, for me, it just
Yeah.
adds a skill to penalties that otherwise would completely lack in penalties. Like if you play someone who takes you to pens who is really, really bad and doesn't know the head movement, for example, you will beat him because you're better at penalties than him because you can read his penalties, right?
Right.
So it's not. I'm not sure. I felt like there was a bit of head movement, but like really, really small and like not that noticeable.
Right.
I don't know. And especially since they will kind of fix pens, I don't know what they'll do with them. So too early to say.
You don't need to green toughness. Oh, gameplay. Passing, dribbling, shooting, defending. Penalties, free kicks, throw-ins. Oh, here's a big one. Can you move your camera for your goalkeeper properly again? Or did they keep it the exact same way as it is right now?
Let me think.
Can you move it like you could like back in the day, essentially?
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I don't think I noticed a change for me to be like, oh, that's new. So it must have been the same as 19.
Right. Because not being able to move is really annoying.
Yeah, but in a way, you're also kind of already used to it. So it's also weird to like change it like from year to year again and again.
Well, I mean, it's not bad to have two of the options. If you want to kick it to the fullback
having
area,
two options makes sense as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's a feedback.
Having it just on one is just.
I'm gonna tell the guys that. Yeah, that's good feedback. Yeah, makes sense. Didn't even think about it because like I know there are pros who like struggle to like pass it to their white cams.
That's what I'm saying.
With this camera.
Yes.
But like I don't think it's an issue at all for me personally. But I guess to each their own. Right?
But it should just be an option because it's better to just aim in the direction and then kick it. You know what I'm saying? Like.
Yeah. Kind of get it. I get it.
Can you adjust your corner set piece defense like the near post defender? What's the set pieces like? What's the
As in
set
like,
pieces like in corners? Like, is there defensive tactics for it? Like, are they
in what way?
useful?
What do you mean defensive tactics?
Like, did they add defensive
It,
tactics like other ones for corners? Like your player set up
nah,
a
not
certain way.
specifically,
It's just
but like,
generic. It's just default.
yeah, yeah, but like what like feedback from 19 again is like they have implemented a system that is a lot smarter in choosing which players are where. So like if you have Kante, he won't be in your post, right?
Right.
Your center backs won't be at the edge of the box. They've implemented a system that makes sense. And well, I haven't noticed that because I don't like cross corners. I play them short, so I can't really tell. But they said it, and I believe them, considering all the other things they said are true and noticeable. I think that should be the case as well.
So the crosses in general, the momentum of the attacker is no longer always better than the momentum of the defender. Now it's like 50-50, like an actual
Not
in.
even, not even. It's not even that. Even if it is, even if it's stronger, it's just like as long as the header is contested, like two players jumping for a header, the 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 player who heads the ball will head it a lot more inaccurately compared to where you're aiming.
Right.
So it's kind of
Right.
going to be random. It's not going to be worth crossing. Even like when like on 19 you pressure someone and they just have a very good team, they can just cross it to left attacking mid Ronaldo and like play on from there.
Yes.
That's not possible anymore because every time you cross to that player and the header is contested, if you want to play it to your striker from that header, the ball will go into the midfield or will go just somewhere in that general area where it's kind of random.
Right. Dude, honestly, I think that's a big plus. Like crosses, I understand that you could do that in real life. No one's saying to like you shouldn't cross in general at all.
Yeah, yeah.
It's more
If you're
like
in open
it's yeah,
space,
if you're in open space, it's
it's okay.
rewarding. Okay.
Yeah.
Is the accuracy from good angles good still or
In terms of what?
so if I'm on the right wing position and I am facing at a 90-degree angle, do they still cross the ball pretty accurately?
I don't know because I didn't try crossing that much.
Okay.
More passing plays and like more different stuff.
Okay. Um Can you still driven pass from your center back to your striker? No problem. Driven passes accuracy is a little bit weird sometimes. That's what he was saying. If a player is much taller
Yeah.
than the defender, will he not be able to beat them in the air? Yeah. Well, the small player, I guess, like the small player probably wouldn't be able to beat the big player most of the times. I think, right?
Yeah, I hope not. But again, I didn't really try. What worries me, like a thing in my mind, is like in foot, like when Timothy Van Dijk comes out, because he's 6'4", probably with 99 jumping. Will he be affected by contested headers?
Right.
That's my issue. So I guess
With like
either we have
steroided stats, you think like maybe
exactly
the 50-50 is not going to be
maybe
that
exactly.
relevant. Yeah, that's
That's
true.
why we need like the
The
players
ultimate team.
to test out.
Yeah.
But generally, I think nobody is gonna use. Obviously, there's gonna be a meta in a way.
Of course. Yeah.
But like most players will be using a Ramos, a Varane, a Van Dijk, and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think you do that, you're fine. Like maybe you'll have an issue using Cannavaro, but if he has 99 jumping and jumps high, he will like compensate for that, right? He will still contest the header. That's how I
Um.
feel.
What else was I gonna ask you? Oh, did you try 1v1 chip shots?
I didn't.
You didn't try
I
1v1
might
chip
have tried
shots?
one, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
I didn't try it. I was because when you're in a 1v1 on FIFA 20, you want to try the actual finishing,
Right.
and you don't want to waste it on like a chip shot. So
Right.
we haven't.
Right.
But like if I get to play it again, I will go more in depth into like specific mechanics.
Did you feel like the goalkeepers caught the ball more than they punched it away when it was obvious that they should just catch it?
For crosses, no. For crosses, there were a few animations where I told the devs like he should either be punching this to the halfway line
Right.
in corner or just like catching it.
Right.
So we gave that feedback. We'll see if it's gonna change. Otherwise, like for shots and stuff, like they rarely had the opportunity to catch a shot because like most of them like were goals from like from like good positions.
Right.
And because we're playing between pros, we don't even get that many chances because like manual defending is rewarding and like we know how to defend. And you're not shitting yourself every time you defend. You're like, do I tackle? Do I not? Like if you feel comfortable, you tackle and you get the ball. So we didn't even have that many 1v1s despite defending being more manual.
Did you feel like the Y passes through the back four was more effective?
Kind of similar to 19.
Okay.
passing, because assisted passing and stuff.
Right.
There was still the pass where you're aiming down the line and it passes between the wing back and the center back.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, what happened to me on 20 was I was aiming down the line. It went between both center backs, and I was like, "Bro, what the fuck?"
Right.
I literally like called
And you
the
mentioned
dev, and I'm like,
it to them.
"Please clip that." I'm like, "I don't want to see this like ever."
Yeah.
And again, because it's very contextual and it's very hard to code. It's hard to fix, and I'm curious, like, if they change like the avoid opponent players, how that will impact it.
Did you feel like the goals that you conceded and scored were good goals for the most part?
For the most part, yes. They're like on FIFA 19, it's the exact opposite. Like 8 to 9 out of 10 goals I concede, I'm like, I should not be conceding that in a normal game. On 20, I was like, the goals I conceded. Obviously, you have the occasional rebound from a defender, like
Of
after a
course.
shot and stuff,
Of
and that's just
course.
RNG.
Yeah.
But like the goals I conceded, I'm like, oh, you got into that position. Like the goalkeeper, I cannot bail myself out with the goalkeeper.
Right.
You got in there through passing plays. I'm fine with that. Like you're in the box. I could have defended better. You scored that. That's how
Yeah.
I felt.
Okay. What are the long shots like in that game?
Didn't try them.
Okay.
Like I tried to avoid long shots on 19 as much as possible, and on 20 I tried to rely on normal plays. Like we tried obviously the occasional like first time B shots, like the volley and stuff,
Right.
which didn't go in, but that's as much like we as much as far as we went. Like maybe if you tried with a hullet, it's gonna be different, but we didn't. Like a green shot with hullet is probably gonna be like different to a first time B shot with Rabio.
Right.
But obviously you have to test it out. Like that's not something I can like say.
Did you use any players that were more OP than expected?
Not really. I feel like the OP quote unquote, because like every year it's less possible to find OP players because of like the way the game works.
Yeah.
But I feel like players like that would be effective to use would be like quick players with good dribbling because of like the getting in behind, and because of consistent finishing. It will be still effective to use players with lower stats if you position yourself properly and like take smart shots. So I think maybe pace players with good dribbling will be quote unquote OP. From what I got told, shielding was not yet fully implemented.
Okay.
Like when you're running and stuff, so maybe like good pace with like good strength would be effective in a way.
Right.
But we couldn't try shielding, like, so that's why I couldn't really judge on Cavani and stuff like that, because you couldn't really shield that like the way they were planning on implementing it. So that's why I can tell.
The runs that your players made, off the ball movement, do you feel like they exploited the open space more, or do you feel like they just kept running into the defender still like they do in FIFA 19?
Like, if you mean when you're, I kind of see what you mean, because if there's like open space, even on FIFA 19, your player's gonna run into it, but they're gonna get tracked by the AI.
Yes.
But I think you mean like when you release a pass, your player that's chasing the ball just runs into the back of the defender and like loses momentum and like has no chance of getting it right.
Right. That and the off the
Yeah.
ball movement too. They do the same thing.
Yeah, kind of like as you're releasing the pass.
Right.
I felt like they were like, because like in 17-18 they were like avoiding those collisions, right?
Right.
I don't think that changes. I'm not sure. I don't recall me reacting to. I even recall myself reacting to that. I'm like, oh, that's like 19 again. So I don't think it's changed.
Right. Okay.
But like you remind me of that, so I'm gonna try to bring it up next time I talk to them.
Anything else, chat? Most of the stuff people are bringing up right now was already talked about. So
Yeah, you can like repeat it throughout your streams in the next couple of days.
yeah.
But yeah, if there's something new that even if I see, I'll mention.
Gameplay speed. He played head to head, so it's not really relevant.
Yeah.
They force the outside foot shot when they should shoot with a good weak foot.
I can't say really. But what I remember seeing somewhere online is like next year on FIFA 20, players will take outside the foot shot if they have outside the foot trade.
Okay.
So that kind of answers the question.
Yeah, because then that'd be kind of like a compensation. Like if they don't do the whole like improve the weak foot thing, then at least if you could do that outside the foot, like Salah can shoot with his outside the foot left side, like then it kind of compensates a little
If
bit.
he has
you
a
know?
trade, yeah.
Yeah. Did you feel like you were rewarded for good tactics?
I feel like tactics will be like, because like back in 17, even 18, like tactics mattered.
Right.
But because this year's game is so random and like a lot of different stuff are OP, tactics matter a lot less. But I feel in 19, tactics will like kind of matter a bit more than 19. That's what I hope at least.
Okay.
And the way I feel.
Did you ever concede penalties from not actually tackling the person?
I can't recall. I
Okay.
can barely even recall conceding penalty.
Right.
Because like when I tackled the ball and stuff.
Right.
And maybe if I I can't. I think I might have conceded one penalty in the game because we went to penalties a couple of times on purpose to test them out. But I can't recall conceding penalties too much. But then again, I must have played like 10 to 15 games in 2 days because I spent most of my time showing devs gameplay footage.
Yeah, the Emra, he mentioned that that one player that was there with him said that one time the off the ball switching for a loose ball didn't work for him, but it didn't happen to Nightwatch. What are fouls like? I've had plenty of times that I knew it was a foul, but the ref didn't give a free kick.
Again, I didn't have
enough that you can't really judge.
Yeah.
You got to play way more games, man.
Yeah, a lot more. Yeah,
exactly. Play way more. To be honest, with the referees, like they make really stupid calls. Like sometimes, you know what I'm saying? Like it's like really shit.
Again, it's very contextual. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like my main issue in 19 with the throw-ins getting awarded to like different player, like the wrong player because of how the game registers the tackle and connection.
Oh, that's a good question actually. How do you get throw-ins in that game at all?
What do you mean?
So like when you tackle, right?
Yeah,
how does the ball ever go out for a throw-in?
Nah, obviously, like if you tackle someone down the line, you're gonna tackle it and throw it. Like they're not gonna, this animation where they kind of like scoop their leg around you to like tackle the ball away.
Yes, yeah.
Like, that doesn't happen on the throwing line just to go through your player, right?
It's more like a kick away, essentially.
Yeah, it's like that happens when you're in and around your box, when you tackle your player with your own back to goal, and like the ball goes forwards to a general area where you get the ball.
Right.
But if you do it like with your attacker, for example, it's not gonna like go magically to your cam. Like illogically, it's gonna go like back to the defenders.
Yeah. Oh, people are so fucked next year. It makes me happy.
I know, that's how I feel.
People are so fucked next year. Oh,
that's how I feel, and that's because honestly, like the thing I'm afraid of is like me giving all this feedback today, answering to all these questions, like giving people hope and they changing it because of past experience.
Right.
But I don't feel that will happen because I trust the game dev team now.
Yeah.
After all that's happened and stuff, I trust them to not like change stuff and to actually just build upon what they've done so far.
Will Conte still defend my corners against Ibra and Ronaldo? To be honest, man, the least amount of corners you concede, the better, bro. And in the video game concept, those are not skilled goals. And I'm pretty sure even in FIFA 20, if you score it, it probably still won't be skilled.
Yeah, I think he means like, will his Kante always be near post where he has to defend CR7, for example?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Right. Yeah, we mentioned that earlier. They have a system set in place that matches the players accordingly.
Yeah.
2 weeks later, there'll be a new patch. If they put a new patch, they're fucking dead to me. Well, I mean, it depends. It depends what needs to be fixed and what doesn't. Because, dude, it's different when there's like a few, like 100 people testing your game, and then it's different when there's millions of people testing your game, right? Are they just saying it based off of like the mechanics not benefiting themselves, or are they saying it because it actually doesn't make sense, right? There's a lot of like different variables. Like people complaining about the goals that they conceded, and watching the clips on Twitter, I'm like, you didn't defend well enough, right? Like there's a huge thing. But I think, to be honest with you, man, I actually think that they're gonna ask for people's opinion before they go on with stuff. Like the gameplay dev team, like I remember Zaro mentioning that to me. He's like, listen, man, if something new is in the works, then we might actually ask for your opinion if it makes sense to take out or to leave in, right? Because dude, some some goals you concede are good goals, right? And like if you, I'm not gonna
Yeah,
be like, oh, the goal is shit because I suck. You know what I mean? Like it's you can't do that.
yeah,
So
yeah. The thing is, especially like the thing is like FIFA 19, they were just like had no experience with what they wanted to do, and they had no idea on a result, right? And they didn't take feedback from like people who actually knew how it's going to impact the game. So, for example, FIFA 19, I remember like when the game was horrible at the start with bicycle kick meta and everything. Like they didn't want to patch it the first like few weeks because they're like, oh, we remember FIFA 18. We don't want to make the same mistake. We
right.
want to let the community get used to the game. That was good intention, but like the whole concept of the whole concept and context of FIFA 19 was so bad that a patch was needed. Whereas for FIFA 20, with pros and different people testing the game out so early, is to avoid releasing something that is fully unfinished and unpolished, and the patches that will need to be made, again, to not like make too quick decisions, to wait like a couple weeks, see how the game develops, wait for people, wait for them to gather stats about like how many percentage of goals are long shots or whatever, because they have all these stats, and then make changes and judgments of that on a game that's actually balanced and skilled.
No, he said 1v1s from his experience from good angles. Stress the good angles part.
Yeah,
From good
smart touches,
smart touches,
and
right shots, right logical shots, like realistic, right? Night watch, like shooting across goal, finessing it from the touch, that kind of stuff, right?
yeah, like in my opinion, like if you are you one with the goalkeeper and you run face towards them and shoot, you should not consistently be able to score because you don't think about your shot.
Right.
But if you're 1v1 with the goalkeeper and then you like ball roll and take a small touch and then finesse it, then you should score 100% of the times.
Right.
Like, because people, I know what's going to happen. People are going to be like, first week of the game, they're going to play the game. They're going to get to a 1v1 because like defenders can't catch up. They're going to shoot the ball facing the goalkeeper. They're like, oh, but Nightwatch said finishing is consistent. No, I said smart finishing is consistent.
Right.
Big difference.
Yeah. Okay. Stallion, what's up, Stallion? Stallion mentioned when he played the game like a month ago or whatever that the near post long shots are really effective.
Yeah, exactly. As I said, I didn't try that much.
Yeah. How are the first time shots and shooting with your back facing the other way? He didn't really test that much because he doesn't play that way, so he doesn't.
But even then, of course, as pros, we tested those like to see if they work, if they're overpowered, if they're fixed and stuff. Like if you try a back to goal shot, like the few we tried, because it's even harder to green because time finishing is harder. Like they don't go in. Like that's all there is to it. Like it's how it should be. First time shots when you're facing the goal, they're accurate as they kind of should be. When you're kind of sight to the goal, again they're kind of accurate-ish. But we have to test like a first time B shot with an informed CR7 green, for example, to see how good that is.
Right. What about player strength? Do they live up to their stats? Timo Werner bullies Virgil van Dijk every time. That's because the momentum of the attacker is better than the momentum of the defender. That's the only reason why. But like, yeah, like his question says, what do you think about like the strength difference between players?
Again, like I said, they haven't like fully implemented shielding in terms of a mechanic of the game in what we played, so you can't really say. But I feel it will make sense. Like for example, the thing is Timo Van Dijk on FIFA 19. Like it's a cheat code. Like that will go down in history for me as like the most broken card of the history for.
I mean, he does corners for you, man. You just cross it in. You don't have to press your controller. He'll do it for you.
Literally lost the final because of him scoring an AI header and a header for me to go 2-0 down.
Yeah.
In the biggest game of my life. Like don't get me started.
Hey man. FIFA tings.
Nah, fuck's sake.
Connectivity and bad connections, brothers. Let me tell you guys something, man. I'm gonna be honest. Nightwatch. I actually feel like the connection. It's not like it's not bad. I actually don't think it's the connection that's not bad. It's just the coding of the inconsistent gameplay. I think that's what people think is like server oriented when your players feel shittier. Honestly, I don't know. But if they add should they add more servers? Yeah, they definitely should. 100%.
Oh yeah.
Fortnite has like 4 or 5 different servers, and like around North America, and North Americans only connect to that one general area. So, freaking Fortnite kids have Central, Eastern, and Western. Like, bro, are you kidding me?
Spoiled.
I wish we had Eastern servers. Are you serious? And I wish we can choose Eastern servers too.
Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do. So we were only there for.
Fuck the guys that don't like time finishing. Time finishing is a stupid mechanic. Shooting should be the simplest thing to do in the game, my dude. Timing a shot is not skilled, my guy.
Yeah, like it's skilled in terms of doing the mechanic, but it's not skilled in terms of decision making.
Right. Because most of the shots you green time, like it depends where. I guess it depends on your angle and stuff too, right? Yeah. But the 100% opportunities, you shouldn't have to green them for them to go in.
Again, FIFA 19 has skill gap, but in the wrong places.
Right. It's not to say that FIFA 19 doesn't have a skill gap. The problem with FIFA 19's skill gap is that you have to abuse the mechanics to have that skill gap. That's what's bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, look at Kurt, bro. Kurt's played proper football and lost the game, right? That's what happens.
That's the thing, like, but that's when, if you watch like the playoffs, like the PS4, Nicholas, right? Last year he won playoffs, he didn't lose a game. This year he won playoffs, didn't lose a game. He had a rough start for his standard to FIFA 19, where he played normally, right? But like he obviously understands like there's two sides of it. Who's gonna remember 3 years from now? Oh, you won a title because you scooped cross, right? Nobody's gonna remember that.
It's true.
And second of all, in 3 years' time, you're gonna be like, I want a title of FIFA 19, and people are gonna be like, FIFA 19, that's irrelevant, right? So there's two sides to it.
Yep.
But like he realized, and rightly so, that better win titles than like go out with pride in a way, right? There's principles, but then again, everybody literally does it, and you're in a huge competitive disadvantage if you don't do it. And you can see him occasionally scoop cross, trying a tornado cross and stuff. And that's not to say he's not one of the best players in the world, because he does that, right? He can play. His defending and his play in the defense is astonishing, right? What I saw this weekend, because I was watching every game because it was kind of my job. What I saw this weekend from Nicholas every time he played, it was actually unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like the way he defended. And at the same time, when he attacks, he's dangerous, he's patient, but can also exploit a few things just to keep his opponent like second guessing. Is he going to do that? Is he not going to do? Because if I play Kurt and I know he's not going to scoop cross, I'm going to let him down the line every time. And I'm going to just like cut off his like cutting back and cutting inside. And then only thing he can do is cross. But when he can't cross, I feel safe, you know?
Right.
That's how I feel when I play Dax this year. Like, I don't expect exploits. So that makes it a lot more easier. Like, I don't expect first time B shot, so I don't move my goalkeeper, so I can focus on getting the ball off him as soon as he gets it. Like, it just adds so much more to your game if you do the occasional exploit here and there, just to be able to leave your opponent second guessing.
It becomes a problem when people excuse this shit just because pros win anyways. Yeah. Any changes in D-pad tactics? I feel like they didn't change shit with that, right?
No, I think it's the same.
Yeah, I think it's very
Yeah. Cheers to whoever said that. Remember how the offside trap was in FIFA 18?
Yes.
In terms of you can spam it?
Yes.
At the feedback session, I'm like, me and one more player that I don't think he's mentioned that he's played it. And he was very good with offside 18. We were like, why did you change it back?
Yeah.
Like FIFA 18 was good. FIFA 19, you now have a timer. And it looks maybe a bit more realistic, but offside trap isn't realistic as it is, because there's like, you don't really see that in game except for set pieces. Like, why do you change it? And we told them like to kind of make it FIFA 18 wise, which would also help defend kickoff in a way. So they're like, they noted it, and I don't know if they're going to implement it, but we give that feedback.
That actually makes a lot of sense, because the offside trap from back then is way better than it was now. Remember when I used to play back then, when I used to just spam it just on the while I was attacking, just to have my defenders higher? You remember?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like when you do the through ball that you saw your opponents getting, you just spam it by reflex.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember that.
Yeah, I used to spam it while I was attacking. People were like, "Why are you spamming offside trap while you're attacking?" I'm like, just because like, if I lose it, they're already up, and it had a good bounce because the CDMs were bounced with the back four, so they would push up as well, and then the CDMs would be in a better position too. That's very true, actually. Yeah, because it is timed on the offside trap now. You're right, because you have to do it one
It's
2,
fucking disgusting. It
3.
is.
Yeah, it's shit.
And especially if you don't wait it kind of resets without doing one.
Johnny, so he said that kickoff is still he still experiences kickoff in FIFA 20, but his way of trying to tell them to deal with it is he wants the defensive players to act more like they did back in the day from kickoff than they do nowadays, because the reason why it's done nowadays is for people to avoid the KSI kickoff glitch. But before, to defend against the KSI kickoff glitch, it was actually really easy because all you had to do was use a center back and then just track that run. And dealing with it like that is better than dealing with it with the way it is right now, where your defense and your midfield just has this huge gap in the middle, and it's just really easy to attack against. Is there an offside trap in actual tactics?
Nah.
Yeah, you don't want to bring that up to Stallion, because Stallion used to love that shit.
Yeah. Nah, there's like tactics are just, I think that will be the next big thing they could like dive into, but like I doubt it's gonna be FIFA 20.
They need to remove the no-touch dribbling. It's not that big of a deal, to be honest with you.
I've never used no touch dribbling on FIFA.
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
Maybe FIFA, what was it? FIFA 15, 16, where you could like no touch it, kind of sprint boost, but like
The
that was
sprint
the only
boost,
time.
I think that was like 2 years ago, I think.
Well, there was a
When
the
Boris
ball
when
roll
Boris used to do it.
sprint boost. You had the ball roll sprint boost,
Ball roll sprint
which
boost.
was FIFA's. Yeah, the one I think it was a ball roll sprint boost.
Oh, I know. I remember the no touch sprint boost. Hectic Jukes used to do that shit all the time.
Yeah, you also had that. I think that was FIFA 15. I think FIFA 16 or 17 ball roll sprint boost.
Oh, well,
yeah.
he didn't try the drag back, but did you notice the drag back shot? Did they fix that thing?
Oh, yeah. I think that's one thing I noticed. Like you can actually comfortably shoot after a drag back.
Okay.
And, you know how, what was the issue? Fuck. There was one more issue. It wasn't a drag back shot. It was something else related to it.
Heel to heel ball roll, and it did a McGeady spin instead.
Exactly. The heel to heel ball roll. It did a Jovinko spin. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
You can now do a ball roll after a heel to heel.
Okay. Yeah, I sent that to them the other day. Like a bunch of examples. Where I showed them.
I sent that to them 2 weeks into the game.
Yeah, that one was really bad.
2 weeks into the game.
Yeah.
Heel to heel into a ball roll. Do it, and I'm like,
because if you held the skill move early, it just did the McGeady spin.
Yeah, exactly.
He talked about the ball roll acceleration glitch. They did that. You said that they did that once for you or twice for you.
The ball roll where they push the ball downwards or like wherever you're aiming.
Yes,
it happened to me once, so it's still in the game.
So it's just a matter of them having to fix it before release.
Good news, which you've probably seen on Twitter or wherever, but most of the chat probably hasn't. Referee is like constantly running away from you. Like when you have the ball and when you're defending, he's like running away. And if you, by some miracle, happen to catch up to him, he's transparent.
Yeah, he's transparent. I saw that. Like I told my chat already about that, because I hate when the ball touches the referee in this game.
But not even. I hate it. I want to press and like my player has to surround the referee and lose momentum.
Yeah,
I fucking hate that.
Yeah, I mentioned that like 2 weeks ago that the referee, like I remember dude, it happened to me today. I'm like, oh my god, I can't wait when the referees are transparent, because it did it today, and I was like, oh my god, I can't wait so these guys don't touch this fucking ball anymore.
Same.
Transparent referees should have happened a long time ago. It's the same shit as like you taking a shot and it hitting the hand. Like sure, it hit the hand, but whatever. It's better than, you're not gonna let the ball phase through the hand. It's kind of weird, you know.
Yeah, obviously you still have like people ask me like on Twitter, does like the ball still phase through the feet or like feet phase through feet and stuff?
Yeah,
like it does, but that's because like it's the visuals contradicting with the actual mechanics. So what you see is not actually what happens. It's just like the game tries to compensate for like the movements and the mechanics and the animations of the players. So it's not like they're scripting because the ball goes through your hand. It's because like the game doesn't register a hand being there. So that's why the ball goes through, you know?
Right.
It's weird to explain.
It's the same thing with like the ball phasing through your right foot when you shoot it the first time and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not because like the scripting, just like the game registers that your foot is not there.
Right.
So that's why it just goes through it.
Less nutmegs in FIFA 20.
Again, like the change I suggested be implemented, and which I already heard it is kind of implemented. Like less nutmegs on the player because like if it nutmegs an AI an AI player, you can't really complain because like sometimes he'll get it, sometimes he won't. Like you feel hard done if your opponent intercepts it with the AI. You feel hard done if your AI nutmegs, right?
Right.
So it's kind of like goes both ways. But as long as you're controlling a player, he will not lunge unless you press tackle.
Right.
That's how I think it's going to be upon release.
Right. And if you're manually using someone and the person passes the ball through that manually used person, you're going to most likely get the ball.
I haven't tested it, but the thing is, I played a few days on FIFA 19 with no auto lunges on.
Right.
Like the change was noticeable. Like they don't lunge for passes, they lunge for auto blocks, right? They don't lunge for passes. And to get a pass, you had to press tackle to intercept the ball that's passing next to you. So that's how I feel it will be.
They didn't test out time wasting. There was more important things to test. Like I agree when I watch. There's more important things to test than that. That is something you test when the game's actually out.
Yeah.
Honestly, like the best way to avoid time wasting is if you put high depth, in my opinion. If you're high depth and you could control your players properly, then that's the way to do it. I think that's the most generic way, you know?
Then you're kind of exposed to like the through ball system because like it's gonna be very relative. We'll see how it is. But I feel like the way Team Press was OP in 19, it's gonna be a good balance for 20.
They also didn't change.
They'll keep it they're gonna keep it the same, but AI is going to be a lot less effective. So they will be there, but you'll have to control them yourself in order to get the ball back.
Right.
So you could cut passing lanes manually by quickly switching and then apply pressure yourself, right?
Right.
And as long as they they kind of fix assisted passing, it could be a good balance.
Assisted passing in regards to trying to avoid the defending player. Right.
Yeah.
They also didn't change the chemistry in foot for FIFA 20 because of the announcement of Pimento Calcio. They talked about the chem being the same as before. Honestly, bro, I'm going to be honest with you. I honestly do not mind how they do chemistry in this game. The only problem, right, and I mentioned this to Jamie, is that, like, I was telling this to Jamie, I'm like, dude, I don't mind how you guys do chemistry. I don't mind how you build your ultimate team in the game. What I do mind is you have to make more players usable, right? So, for instance, like, I always talk about Ricardo Quaresma, but Quaresma doesn't have any link-ups with anybody, right? You have to give a good right-back card to link with that Quaresma card. Yeah, and I said that, like, you have to take that into consideration. Like, what's the point of making a foot miss Roberto Firmino or De Bruyne if these cards are probably going to get informs in real life, and then those foot miss cards are going to be irrelevant? Why don't you give those foot miss cards to players that are less relevant so that they're more usable, because they're probably not going to get informs in the future, right? Like Ricardo Quaresma. I think he got like one inform this entire year, right? So that's why I feel like that's why I mentioned to them that they need to focus on more, that if they do promos in that sense, it needs to be for players that are probably most likely not going to get informs and stuff, because you're going to have informs anyways, right? So it just didn't make sense to have a foot miss KDB when he's most likely going to get an inform anyways, right? Player of the months and stuff, they do it as they do. I told them that the player of the month should be 2 or 3 ratings higher, so that if informs come out, the player of the month from an untradeable is still better than the informs. But if the player gets like 3 informs in a row, not really their fault. He just gets 3 informs in a row. He's just a consistent player. Get his OTW at that point if he's a transfer player. But but the way that they have chemistry set up right now, honestly, it's really, 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 really just down to making more players usable. Because if I have to do this whole thing where I have to use like a 4-4-2 or a 4-5-1 or a 4-3-3 to get chemistry before the game starts, but dynamic tactics is still a thing, I honestly do not mind this chemistry system at all. It's actually fun to magically try to cope with where you want to put which player where. I kind of actually like it. So
yeah.
That's what I mentioned to them. I don't mind as long as you allow us to set it up before the game, and then in game we can switch to whatever tactic we want, and you make more players usable. Then boom, I honestly don't care. Because the thing I mentioned is like, okay, so like Dutch league players, to Super League players, Mexican league players, right? Like when Team of the Season comes out, they're cool, but some players are completely unusable, right? So it's like that's what it really comes down to. Why we only have a few meta players to use? Mourinho, let me tell you something right now, my dude. Every year from I would say honestly, when was the first year that stats were super relevant? Was like probably like what, like 16 or 17, right? 16 or 17.
I'd say 17 towards 18 towards 19.
Where it's like they made
FIFA
sense
16,
to the player.
Yeah, FIFA
Okay.
16 you could fight the Hollywood Marquise, right?
Right. If you have specific stats, there's always going to be meta every single year. The problem with the community right now is that they don't know the video game concept of using different players. This team right here is not meta, but they're usable, right? That's the point. That it depends on how they make their gameplay content, their gameplay game modes, right? This team should be a team you should want to use because it's very usable. But obviously, the few meta players, it's gonna be like that every single year. But you should want to use these types of players. You know what I'm saying? Like it should be, there should be like not an incentive, but there should be molds where it's like, you know what, I want to use something different here. You know, like I can't use this team against 2400 plus consistently. It's just not. It's not ideal. It's competitive FIFA. But if I want to use this team in regular FIFA, then that's entirely different.
Because like I have this Quagliarella, right? Like on the transfer market a month ago, like because I've barely played since then, he was like 200k, which for a player with these stats is like nothing.
Right.
But like it just doesn't feel meta, despite him having almost 90 pace and like insane shooting, skill moves, and everything.
Yeah, exactly. He's not meta. He's fun. He's usable. He's awesome, actually.
He's not meta for the current.
Exactly. But like, okay, if I use Quagliarella, why am I going to put myself at a disadvantage and use Quagliarella over a Ronaldo? Why would I do that to myself? Because this whole game is oriented around competitive FIFA. This game mode, right, I would only use my meta team for. But if they had another game mode, then yeah, of course, I would use this team right here for the fun concept, and I would just go because what I call these players is I call them baby meta. That's what my term is. That's what I use. They're baby meta, right? This team would be fun to use in the baby meta game mode, like a World Cup mode where you have the 3 qualifying rounds and you go to each round, like quarterfinals, semifinals, finals, and then you get rewards like that. That balance is what should have happened this year because it may not be full meta, but this team is usable, and this is a team you can compete with. Now, if you had that game mode and people used full meta in those game modes, then that's just them being douchebags. But that happens in any game you play. You know what I'm saying? But that's why I think the gameplay balance should be. The only reason why we have few meta players is because of the way the game is currently set up, but the game every single year is only going to have a few meta players that most people are going to use, right? It's down on EA to make concepts for their competitive tournaments or whatever it is to make it more interesting. Oh, you're not allowed to use this, you're not allowed to use this, you're not allowed to use this, or whatever, and prepare before the tournament happens to make it more interesting for people to watch. But other than that, like, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, he didn't. He's just testing out. He just had tested out head-to-head gameplay.
Yeah, only head-to-head, and I can only gameplay.
Just gameplay stuff.
Like no Volta, no foot, no nothing.
Yeah. Did player stats get too high this year? No, they're fine. They're fine. That's not the problem, man. They're completely fine.
I mean, there is probably like the issue that at this point in the game, especially when you play at events and you play this game, like the issue is mostly with this game, not with stats. But when you add stats to it, like when you have 10 players on the field on your team that can actually take a first time B shot and score. Like if I take at an event a first time B shot with Ramos and it's green, it's probably gonna go in, right?
Yeah.
So that's an issue.
But that's just like the way that the current setup. That's more of a
game issue. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
That's more of a game issue, and like when you have the stats to it as well.
There is a point that got boring playing against the same teams. Of course, no, I understand that. But honestly, a meta game mode, a competitive game mode, that's what it should be. It should be the most meta possible team ever. But then, like, again, you should be able to use the non-meta for regular game modes. That's the balance you needed, right? In this year's game, you will never, ever find someone 2450, and you can ask this to Night Watch as well, or anyone that's 2450, you will never ever find someone using a team like this. Ever. You will not find it once, my dudes. You didn't even find a team like this in the beginning of the year, bro. Once you hit like beginning of the year, bro, the first like couple of days, if you hit like 2200, bro, it was over, bro. It was legends everywhere. It was Ronaldo's and Mbappe's, and those guys were like mad expensive when the game first came out, right? So that's what it was like during that time too. Composure's got to go, but composure's not going to go. Composure will stay. Composure will still be a very relevant stat, and hopefully in the future when they release new Ultimate Team cards, they always look at the stamina and the composure, and they actually like make those things good. Because I hate when they release a Doumbia and he has like 68 stamina or whatever, or 68 composure, whatever the fuck he has.
True.
Anything else to add to that, my dude?
Bro, I've said so much. Like,
yeah, dude, we've been talking for 2 hours.
Yeah, yeah. If anyone possibly has something that I've maybe missed out, just like check out the tweet on Twitter. Just like Control F the keyword you're looking for. You're probably gonna find it. Because like today I spent like 6 hours replying to people, like 6 hours straight, trying not to miss any comments because like notifications didn't work either. So like I repeated a lot of stuff and try to answer to as much as possible.
Camera settings, more customization. I think he would probably just use the default camera that he would normally use. I don't think you wouldn't experiment with that, right?
I play co-op camera as it is, but I haven't tried new cameras. I don't think they work by switching to co-op.
Right.
But I think the camera should be the same.
Right. I think we pretty much covered everything. Gameplay wise, I don't like I think we got literally everything. Yeah, I think everything down to the teeth actually. Off the ball movement, on the ball movement, that stuff too. Did my boy had the possibility to take a penalty in FIFA 20? Yeah, did you ever try the penalties and free kicks?
Yeah, I did. Free kicks, as I said, could be OP. Like I scored my third one by greening it. It went top ends.
Okay, but
again,
what if wait, hold on. What if you put a player there?
Yeah, that's what I thought. Like that's when somebody took free kick, like was going to take free kick against me. That's what I tried. But I'm not sure. Like I have a feeling somebody tried that once against me, and I scored it because it was green. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Like
This is a good question. Can you still use manual goalkeeping from corners and stuff?
Oh yeah. What they want to do, like that was still an issue. Like you took them out, and as soon as they powered up the shot, like the goalkeeper ran back to the line.
Yeah.
So that's something they were fixing. But what they were planning to do is whenever your opponent starts powering up the shot, your goalkeeper locks, so you cannot move him anymore.
Right.
I'm not sure if I'm a fan of that. Again, on the defensive end, you cannot have something be too OP, especially when it comes to crosses. So like you can, I don't mind me being able to trick my opponent into crossing far post and me moving my goalkeeper there after he's started crossing it. But they said they're gonna lock it as soon as your opponent powers it up, and depending on feedback, they might change it. But that's how it may start. I
kind of like how it's done locked up, to be honest with you.
It kind of makes sense in a way, but defensive end could never be too overpowered.
Right.
So I'd rather have like the defender be advantaged, right? Especially when it comes down to crosses where it's random as it is. So my feedback personally was like, don't lock it, just like let me move him constantly. And I don't know if they're gonna change it or not, but that was the main idea. And what there was one more thing, but I forgot. But yeah, that's the idea basically. Oh yeah, the speed of the goalkeeper when you move him, it's just as quick as an open play, and I told him like to just make them a bit quicker for set pieces.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah. Right. Gotcha. So So I can glitch the goalkeeper if I can do a fake shot or something? No, it's when you boost the shot. Wait, actually, that's a good question. Doesn't it register a shooting thing when you fake shot?
What do you mean?
Because when you do a fake shot, you're holding circle.
Yeah, that's the thing. That happens on 19 as well. Just not enough people know it. If you're close to a defender and you fake shot with circle, I believe. So if you're close to a defender and you the shooting button, the defender, no matter if you're controlling him or not, he will lunge. Like if you do the pass button of the fake shot in the last possible second, the defender will lunge, no matter what you want to do. Like I have a clip of that of a guy doing that to me from kickoff in the space of 15 in-game seconds twice, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Why am I playing? Like I know why they're doing it, but I don't want that to happen.
Right.
And the same thing happens for goalkeepers. Like if you fake shot in the last possible second, if you cancel your shot in the last possible second, the goalkeeper will dive. But it's kind of random, and like it's hard to do, and not enough people know about it, so it's never been an issue, and I haven't tried it on 20.
Right. If you currently
Maldini's off the pack, fellas.
What?
Just reading the chat.
Yeah, chat can be a bunch of savages sometimes, you know? They can be a bunch of savages.
Okay. I love it.
Um,
Shweevy, it kind of worked still in 19, but just watch Inception in the coming days. I think he's going to try it.
Need an icon for Hullet SBC. Oh, then we'll cancel. Okay, I think that's pretty much it, man. I think we covered most things. I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I can't really think of anything else.
Like, don't forget, like I've played the game for like 2 days, and that's like 10, 15 games.
Well, that's a good question. Did the game look better?
I don't know. Like honestly,
really,
I don't know. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like I just.
To be honest, the game actually kind of looks good now. Like I think the graphics are pretty solid already.
It probably looks a bit better. Like they always make improvements. Like always,
especially if it's with the 4K console. Oh, did you play on the 4K console when you were there, or did you play on the regular console?
I don't know. I think it's the regular. I don't know. Like I don't even have like the latest ones at home. Like I have the old Xbox One.
Yeah.
And like the normal PlayStation 4. So like I think we've played on the advanced ones, but not like the newest ones.
Because Zooey's asking, like, if you the first time you won the game, did it look exactly like FIFA 19?
Like the first time I started, it was FIFA 20. Yeah, like when you load up the game, I don't know. You can see like, oh, this is like not 19. Yeah, definitely. I guess there is a change. Yeah, there is a change, but I just can't put my finger on.
He's saying I think Kazooie means more like when it's before kickoff. Like
in terms of like definitely. Like you can see it's not 19. Again, I can't put my finger on what it is because I don't care, because like I'm there for gameplay.
Maybe it's just a different shade, you know what I'm saying? It's just a different shade.
Yeah, probably. Like, yeah, very possible. Like there are people who, like, I assume there were people who were there like to give feedback on the way it looks, the visuals and stuff, but like I was there for gameplay, and like that's what I focused on.
Is park the bus still a thing? It is, but the defending is different. It's more manual now, so you can get past someone parking the bus more easily. From head to head, guys, you guys need to understand. Everything we're saying is head to head. Yeah. This is without the hunter boost, the shadow boost, with a fucking engine boost. You know, this is without all the ultimate team variables taken into consideration. You know, because you guys know we boost the hell out of pace in ultimate team, so just have to take that into consideration.
Yeah, I'm curious as to how gameplay. It could be better in some aspects in terms of like defending, dribbling, and stuff. it could be worse in some aspects in terms of like contested headers and shit.
Yeah.
So we need to play foot to be able to like judge the game properly,
Right.
especially in terms of shots and shot mechanics. Because I feel tackling in its core, I think the mechanic is so good that it's irrelevant what stats players have. But like things like shooting and stuff
Did you feel like the manual defending was more relevant for players who had better defending stats, or could I still manually defend with a striker if I chose the right areas?
I can't like the tackles I was doing were with my CDMs and center backs because like
Right.
when you tackle with your striker, like it can't go to your player because it's the last man or like the first man respectively. Um, so I can't like I was tackling with my CDMs and with my center backs, and it went to my players. So can't really say.
Right. 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 Um, I don't think chem styles matter, to be honest. They do, man. They make a difference for sure. Not maybe not as much as
Not
they
to
say
that
they do.
extent.
Yes,
Yeah.
not as much as they say they do, but there is something there for sure.
Yeah.
It's crazy how everybody basically says the same thing. Because to be honest, man, like, let's just be real right now. If you give a hunter to a
To
card,
Lukaku.
you wouldn't need
Yeah.
team of the years. You know what I'm saying? Like, and if
But
those
then
stats are
again,
the
you also
same,
put the chem styles to them, so they're also boosted.
right?
And do the stats go to 99? Do they more?
Yeah, but what if
It's
it's already 99? You know what I'm saying?
yeah, but that's the idea. If you put 100 on a 99, they go to like 110, but you just don't. I know they've said no, but like they also say like Hunter does what it does, but we know it doesn't. So it's like very, very contextual.
Asking what the nutmeg shots. No, that's like if you're controlling the person, like if yeah, well that's like one thing. If the person shoots against you, you block it pretty much. Like, did you ever see like shots going through the legs often?
I did, but like back then they didn't have the change that we suggested, right?
Right.
First of all,
Yeah.
and second of all, it's like AI getting blocked or whatever. You nutmeg, you can't really say.
Right. Like if I put Shadow on Laporte, does he really turn to 90 pace? He definitely doesn't. I would feel 90 pace in a heartbeat, my dude. Okay. Okay then.